Good afternoon.
Take a second to get your laptop together.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And moved it over to witness. Is your HDMI plugged in?
Not yet. It's still booting up.
I got you. Okay.
We can probably go on while it's
Go ahead.
coming to life here.
All right, great. Will you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for our court reporter, please?
Certainly. Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Corbitt, and that's Corbitt, and I'm a sergeant with the City of Tallahassee Police Department.
And you mentioned you're a sergeant. What unit do you work in at TPD?
I currently supervise the Technical Operations Unit, and that's the section of the agency that's responsible for sort of all the high-tech or technological ways that we help out in criminal investigations. That includes things like computer and mobile device forensics, audio and video, CCTV retrieval, our LPR systems. We have a public safety camera system, all of those. And then what I spend most of my time doing, which is the analysis of communication records or analysis of phone records.
And how long have you worked in the Technical Operations Unit at TPD?
For quite some time. I believe 2012, 2008 is when I started in there.
Okay. And how long have you been the sergeant supervising that unit?
2012.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about, well, we've heard a little bit about your experience, but your training and experience to be in your position?
One moment. Yes, sir. I think I'm gonna be sick. The bailiff will take you back. We'll have a brief recess for the moment.
Could you tell us a little bit about your training and experience for your position?
Certainly. I have a little over 1,675 hours of general technical training across kind of all of our disciplines. And then I have just under 900 hours of training specific to communication record analysis. And that, again, involves the collection of records or obtaining the records, the various types of analysis that we do, including location, estimating the location of a handset, or calling analysis. I instruct other law enforcement officers and analysts across the state and really across the country in communication record analysis. I believe that's...
And what is communication record analysis?
Communication record analysis is kind of a general term for what we can do with the records that are primarily, we're talking about the records that come from communication carriers, like our AT&T, Verizon, cell phone carriers is primarily what we talk about. We also do get records from forensic analysis of phones, and we can add that in, but primarily, again, the carrier records. And from the various types of reports they're able to give us, we can do analysis such as who a handset, and I say handset for cell phone, communicates with most frequently. Again, estimated locations, approximately where was a handset when a certain call was placed. The calling pattern analysis, who calls who, when, all of those kind of things. Really, there's a variety of analysis that we can do with those records, kind of pertaining to whatever the investigation needs.
And have you ever testified where you've given an opinion in court in the field of historical communication record analysis?
I have, yes.
About how many times?
101.
Judge, those are all my questions as to his qualifications in that field. If defense has any voir dire.
Very well. Mr. Rushbaugh?
No, Your Honor. Question. Is there any objection to the witness providing an opinion in the field of historic communication analysis?
No, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, the witness will be permitted to provide you with an opinion in this area of historic communication analysis. You may continue.
All right, so we're going to get to your analysis in a minute, but before we do that, I just have to move certain things into evidence, so we're going to go through that. All right, so you told us that in your position at TPD, you often pull records, call detail records from phone companies.
That's correct, yes.
Are these types of records kept in the normal course of business for phone companies?
They are.
And are they kept by an automated system, by a computer that has knowledge of those events in the records?
Yes.
And are you familiar with how to interpret and read those records?
Yes, I am.
In this case, have you reviewed the phone records of what's been marked and shown to defense and you in previous proceedings? And I'm just going to go through all the numbers and names. States Exhibit 85, Luis Rivera, call detail records. States Exhibit 86, Sigfredo Garcia, call detail records. States Exhibit 87, Wendy Adelson. 88, Donna Adelson. 89, Charlie Adelson. 90, Harvey Adelson. 91, Catherine McBanoa. And 92, Daniel Markel, call detail records.
Yes.
Okay. And, there right in front of you on the witness stand, I've left a chart that's already been admitted into evidence. I believe it states 59. Does it say 59 on the pink sticker there?
It does, yes.
Okay. Just to kind of save us time and without having to recite every number, do the numbers below each picture on that chart reflect the numbers for the call detail records we received for each one of these parties?
Yes.
Okay. All right, in addition to the call detail records we spoke about, did you also review traffic tickets received by Sigfredo Garcia, car rental agreements from Comfort Rental and Save Gas, surveillance video from Premier Gym, documents from Spirion GPS, Comfort Rental, Save Gas, as well as the iCloud of Charlie Adelson and the Cellbrite of Wendy Adelson's cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about those last two items in just a second. But for the call detail records and the businesses I named out, when you receive records from a business, does it contain a certification from that business verifying that it is a legitimate record from that business? Did the records in this case have those items?
Yes, all the carriers provide or can provide a business record certification attesting to the things we mentioned earlier.
Okay. And as far as the Wendy Adelson Cellbrite, what is a Cellbrite?
Cellbrite is kind of a catch-all name now. We do forensic analysis of mobile devices and computers. And there's a number of tools that allow us to do that forensic analysis that actually interact with the handset and allow us to retrieve the information that's on it. Cellbrite is one of those, and it is one of the tools that we use. So we kind of say a Cellbrite report is a forensic report. So once we extract that information, then the software goes through and kind of analyzes it for us and says, well, this is a text message, and this is a call log, and this is a Wi-Fi access point, whatever it may be, and creates a report for us that we're able to review and to be able to search through and print out excerpts or whatever we want to do. But it's a tool that allows us to analyze the results of that forensic extraction from the device.
And was that forensic extraction of Wendy Adelson's cell phone done on the day of Dan Markel's murder, July 18, 2014, when she came to Tallahassee Police Department?
Yes, it was.
All right. And then at some point during this investigation, I mentioned this iCloud. Was a subpoena sent to Apple to get the information from Charlie Adelson's iCloud?
I believe it would have been a search warrant, but yes.
Search warrant, my apologies. And when we received the information from that iCloud, were there messages in that iCloud?
Yes.
All right. And what is an iCloud, for those who don't know?
Again, kind of a general term, but for iOS users or Apple users, they have the ability to back up most of the contents from their device to the iCloud, Apple's cloud storage. With a legal demand, we were able to recover that or be provided that backup information from the cell phones of Mr. Adelson. Again, Cellbrite being the software we use to analyze that, to kind of parse everything out and allow us to review it and do the analysis of that iCloud return.
Okay. Did you base your opinions in this case on the records that you received from those businesses that I named out, from the extracts from the iCloud, and also from the call detail records that you received from the phone carriers?
Yes.
All right. All of this information, was this voluminous amount of information, hundreds or even thousands of pages?
Definitely thousands of pages.
Okay. Did you prepare a summary in order to show the jury what these records say about the phone activity and locations of all these parties, and that you'll be relying on for your testimony here today?
I did.
All right. And did that summary include the call detail records, the business records we talked about, and also just certain extracts from Wendy Adelson's cell phone and the iCloud of Charlie Adelson?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to move in item 64, the comfort rental contract, 65, another comfort rental contract, 66, Spirion GPS information, 80, traffic ticket of Sigfredo Garcia, as well as 85 through 92, which are all of the call detail records that I described earlier when I named out each person.
Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Please go through the numbers again.
Yes, sir.
They are admitted.
That should be 85 through 92, 64, 65, 66, and 80. And then finally, this summary that we're going to see where you combined all of that information. Did you create a PDF version to be printed and moved into evidence today?
Yes.
All right. Now, do you also have a version via PowerPoint that we can see here in the courtroom altogether?
I do, yes.
All right, Judge, at this time I would move his summary into evidence. This is State's Exhibit 67. There's going to be both a flash drive containing this and then a physical copy.
Any objection to 67?
No, Your Honor.
State 67 is admitted.
All right, so if you could pull up the summary, the PowerPoint on your end, and we'll get
It is.
started.
It is on my
Okay, so let me see what I need. Oh, I know what I need. Okay. All right. Okay, so you told us that about part of your job is getting these call detail records from phone companies. Can you describe to us what these call detail records look like and what's contained in them?
Certainly. So this is a sample of call detail records. This is one page from the many records that we received. And you can see there's a lot of information here on the page, but there's certain sections that we kind of look at for our analysis. So here on the left-hand side, we have the date and time of events. And when I say events, it could be a voice call, it could be a text message, or it could be a data session. Different carriers provide records for different types of events, but in this case with AT&T, we generally see records with voice, text, and data. But we have the date and time of that event. Sometimes our records are provided in different time zones, and we have to do an adjustment to our local time. But in the older records here that we have, these records were actually provided in our local time. Some of the later records we had were not. So that section, again, tells us the date and time of the event. So if we're looking for something that happened on a certain day, that's the section that we go to. The next section here involves who's calling who. These are the phone numbers involved, and one of those would be our target number, or the number that the records are for, and the other number would be the person that's either calling that person or being called by that person. So we see also what they call their seizure time, how long it takes to connect the call, and then the elapsed time, how long the call lasts. We will do a lot of summaries of call detail records. It's easier to read when we kind of do it in a different format that allows us to put a name with a number so we know kind of who's calling who. It's a little bit easier to read. But those summaries will come from that section of the records as far as what phone numbers are communicating with whom else. And then the other section that we have here is the location section. So this is the cell site or cell tower that the handset was communicating with for that particular event. And they give us both a unique identifier for it, a number that we can go to a key or a spreadsheet and look up. And in the case of AT&T, they also provide us the latitude and longitude of that cell site. So when we do location analysis, it kind of looks like this. We can just take that latitude and longitude they give us, or which we looked up and confirmed in that key, and we can plot it on the map. And here it's just represented by this blue dot. But that would be the location of the cell site that this handset was communicating with during that particular sample event. Sometimes just knowing where the cell site is sufficient. We don't really need to know any more. We can do kind of our location analysis. We know this phone was generally in the South Florida area. But our cell sites are almost all broken down into multiple sides or sectors. And so that means they have antennas that are facing different direction, and a handset will communicate with one of those sectors. And we're also provided with that information in the call detail records. So not only do we know where the cell site is, but we know kind of which side of the cell site a handset was on for particular events. And sometimes we will look at that to help narrow down where a handset could have been. So sometimes we'll represent them. You can see here the large blue arrow would represent the sector that the handset was using. The smaller black arrows would represent the other cell sites on that, or other sectors on that cell site that were not being used. But that kind of gives us an idea of how that cell site is divided up. 3 being the most common kind of division of a cell site.
Can you say exactly or precisely on a map where a certain handset is?
No.
Okay. Do you say whether a handset is consistent with a location or inconsistent?
Yes, generally we're provided with an address and we're asked to say, could this handset have been at this address, this scene, this incident? And so we look at where the cell site is located, we look at the sector the handset is communicating with, and make an opinion as to whether that sector of that cell site services that incident location. And if it does, if we think it's within the coverage area of that particular cell site and sector, then we would say yes, your incident location is included. If that address were to be somewhere far outside of the cell site that we do not believe the signal from that cell site could reach a handset, then we would say no, that location is excluded or the handset could not have been there.
If a phone is out of battery or turned off or just not being used at that time, are you able to get locations for that handset at those times?
So that's a good point. We can only make estimations about locations when we have events with location. If they're not in the records, then we don't know where a handset could be. And so yes, in some of those situations, if a handset is not being used, it may still generate data records. So we may still see location information, even if no one is actively making a phone call or sending a text message. And with some of the carriers, we don't see those. We don't see the passive events, and we may not have location information for some time. But yes, we only can make that determination when we have an actual record with location.
All right, so let's get into this case. Can you walk us through Dan Markel's known locations the day that he was murdered on July 18th, 2014?
Yes, we knew that he had been in 3 distinct locations that morning, one being his house, the second being where he dropped his children off at daycare, and then the third being Premier Health and Fitness Center, where he was before returning home. So we knew we had those 3 locations.
Did TPD believe that whoever shot Dan Markel was at least one of these same locations or more that he was at that morning?
Yes, we did have evidence that he was being followed, at least at the last location. So we did believe that it was a probability that the suspects were possibly at all 3 of those locations around the same time Mr. Markel would have been.
Okay, and the last location with the surveillance video you're speaking of is the Premier Gym?
Yes.
Where the Prius was following him?
Yes.
All right. So how did TPD try to identify who was in that Prius?
The first thing that we did is what we call a tower dump, which is kind of a generic term for collecting all of the events that were processed through any cell sites that could service a particular location. So we gave the carriers those 3 addresses and the time frame that we believe the suspects would have been there, and said, please give us all the events that your cell towers processed and the phone numbers associated with those, and so that we could try to do some analysis and determine if, again, those suspects were following him in those locations.
And which phone companies had cell sites in the area?
At that time, we had T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T.
Okay, so those 4 companies?
Yes,
So TPD, you said, then subpoenaed those records to get all of the numbers with events in that location.
that's correct.
Okay. All right, so state has marked and shown to defense, and the witness in previous proceedings states 93, which is the tower dump of T-Mobile, states 94, tower dump of AT&T, states 95, tower dump of Verizon, states 96, tower dump of Sprint, which all contain certifications of business records. Did you review the tower dumps of all those 4 companies in your analysis in this case?
I did, yes.
Okay, at this time, I would move states 93 through 96 into evidence of certified business records.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
States 93 through 96 are admitted at this time.
So, was this analysis of those tower dumps a quicker and easy thing to do?
No, not quick or easy. We do have software that helps us, that we're able to import these records into, and it kind of does some of the hard work for us in the background. But again, the results that we get have to be researched and analyzed and worked from that point.
Okay. After looking through all of the numbers in all of those 4 discs in evidence and all of that data, was there any one number at all of those locations that Markel was at that morning?
There was not.
All right, so since you couldn't find one number that was in every single one of those locations, what did y'all do next?
Well, the next thought was the call or the tower dump is, again, just kind of a listing of a bunch of phone numbers of handsets that were present in those kind of critical places and times. And at that point, we also had a significant number of records from the subjects in the investigation. So we were actually able to compare the phone numbers of phones that were in the tower dumps with both all of the target numbers or subject numbers that we had obtained records for and all the people that they had talked to. We were able to kind of compare those 2 data sets to see if something would come out.
Okay, and what did you find?
We did, in comparing these, we did find a number that was common to the tower dump from the Premier Health and Fitness, and it was also a number that had been called into one of the subjects in the investigation.
And which subject was that?
That was Mr. Harvey Adelson.
And that's Charlie Adelson's father?
Yes.
Okay, can you show us that call? I want to ask you about the date and time and duration.
Yes,
Okay,
so this,
go ahead.
July 1st of 2014, and while it looks like 3 events here, it's actually only 1 call. And this is something that we see in the records. There are a number of routing events that happen when the call is received, and in this case, there's an indication it was routed to voicemail. So that routing shows up as multiple events in the record. So while it looks like more, it is actually only a single phone call.
And what date was this call on?
Again, July 1st of 2014.
Okay, and what was the duration of the call?
The duration was 37 seconds.
So that was the time from the time the call connected to the time the call ended?
That's correct.
Okay. Could that be consistent with the 786 caller leaving a voicemail on Harvey Adelson's phone?
It could be, yes. All we know is that it was connected for 37 seconds, and there is the indicator of routing to voicemail.
Okay, was there any other communication in the phone records between this 786 number and Harvey Adelson besides this one call, this one 37-second call?
There was not.
And who did the 786 number belong to?
The 786 number belonged to Mr. Sigfredo Garcia.
And so Sigfredo Garcia's number was consistent with being at Premier Gym at the same time of the victim, and that number having this 37-second call on July 1st to Harvey Adelson is what brought him to the forefront.
One way, yes.
Okay. And was Sigfredo Garcia linked to Charlie Adelson?
He was, yes.
Can you show us how?
So again, one of the main analysis that we do with phone records is what we call a frequency report, or just a simple report that tells us who a particular handset communicates with most frequently. Helps us identify people that are significant in their lives, maybe co-conspirators or other people. But again, we do that frequency report. So we looked at his frequency report, and at the very top we had this number that ending in 1312, clearly communicated with a significant number of times by Mr. Garcia.
And who did the 786-1312 number
So the
belong to?
1312 number was Miss Magbanowa's.
Okay, and how was she linked to Charlie Adelson?
Again, looking at her frequency or who she communicated with the most, we see her second most frequent contact was a number ending in 9223.
And who did that 9223 number belong to?
That was Mr. Charlie Adelson.
Who was another one of Sigfredo Garcia's top contacts besides Catherine Magbanowa?
So we did look at all of his contacts or all the people in his frequency report to attempt to identify who he may have been with. Going back to the tower dump return, we found that there was a phone number in the AT&T tower dump return, also from Premier, that number was also in Mr. Garcia's frequency report. So someone that he communicated with relatively frequently was also here in Tallahassee at the same time.
And who does the 8153 number belong to that was here at the same time?
That was Mr. Rivera's.
All right, looking at your next slide, does anyone else in this chart have phone contact with Sigfredo Garcia down at the bottom or Luis Rivera right next to him, other than Catherine Magbanowa and that 137-second call between Garcia and Harvey Adelson on July 1st of 2014?
No.
Okay, so speaking of that July 1st, 2014 37-second call, was it your understanding through this investigation that that call came after an incident where Garcia confronted Magbanowa and Charlie Adelson on July 1st when they were going to take out jet skis, and then Garcia left an angry voicemail on Harvey Adelson's phone?
Yes.
In looking at Charlie Adelson's iCloud, were there messages that reference the message left on July 1st?
There are, yes.
Okay. Can you show us those messages? Or yeah, what do we have
So
here?
this is just a sample of the Cellbrite report that we've been talking about. We can see that this is just containing the one message, but this is an example of how the Cellbrite report looks and how we're able to go through and get information. For most of our summaries, we will convert those out into something that's a little bit easier to read. You can see that the print's kind of small and there's all kinds of information in there. So when we do these summaries of the text messages, we will kind of bring them out into these bigger bubbles. But we have the two messages here on the left that are from Ms. Magbanowa and the response from Mr. Adelson. And again, this is July 2nd of 2014.
Okay. And in this message from Charlie Adelson to Catherine Magbanowa on July 2nd, 2014, so this would be the day after the 37-second call to Harvey Adelson's phone?
That's correct.
Okay. Charlie Adelson says, "I'm sorry, but he's a fucking pussy."
Yes.
Okay. And then he says that leaving messages is so childish, but whatever.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Was Luis Rivera interviewed by law enforcement back in 2016?
He was, yes.
All right. And did he admit that he and Garcia were, in fact, in that Prius at Premier Gym that followed Dan Markel on July 18th of 2014?
He did, yes.
All right. And did both Garcia and Rivera live in Miami back in 2014 to 2016, that time range?
Yes.
Did Rivera tell law enforcement during his interview about an additional trip to Tallahassee besides the one that law enforcement already knew about, where Dan Markel was killed on July 18th.
He did, yes.
Okay. What did y'all do once you learned that information, that before the murder there was this first trip or additional trip to Tallahassee?
Well, we certainly investigated that. We looked at the records that we had to see if we could confirm that trip, and then researched other evidence that we may have been able to collect to document that trip.
And were you able to see from the records that Luis Rivera traveled to Tallahassee not only in July of 2014, but also in June of 2014?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to go now in chronological order, starting with the June trip and then going into the July trip, which culminated in Dan Markel being murdered. All right. Looking first at June 2nd of 2014, what did law enforcement find evidence of that happened that day?
The first thing that we found was the rental contract for a rental vehicle that was ultimately driven up here. With that contract, we see that it was in the name of Mr. Garcia. We see the vehicle description here on the right-hand side is a Nissan Altima. And we have a due in the contract that indicates it was due back on June 5th at 8:50 p.m.
Okay. Using that date and time it was due back, what time was law enforcement able to determine that it was rented?
Knowing that they were 24-hour rental periods from this company, then it was logical that it was rented around 8:50 p.m. So we looked at records in that time frame.
Okay, so around 8:50 p.m. on
June 2nd.
June 2nd. Okay,
Yes.
so 3 days before. All right, you mentioned it's a Nissan Altima that he rented. What color was that Nissan Altima?
Silver.
And this is Sigfredo Garcia that's renting this vehicle?
That's correct.
Does Luis Rivera's name appear anywhere on this rental contract?
It does not.
Okay, and you said that this is from Comfort Rental?
Yes.
All right, was there any phone evidence or records to show how the rental car was picked up
Yes.
on June 2nd?
So we know the location of the Comfort Rent-A-Car, here represented by the yellow flag and the label Comfort Rent-A-Car, and we also have Ms. Bagbanoa's residence at the time. Looking at her phone records, the cell sites that her handset was communicating with the evening of June 2nd, we can see on the top right here, there's a cell site at 8:25, which is near her residence. We have another cell site at 8:34, where the handset is moved kind of west and south a little bit. And then we see events on the left-hand side, 8:53 through 8:58, where her handset is now communicating with a cell site much closer to the Comfort rental car.
Did Sigfredo Garcia's phone records from June of 2014 have location information?
They did not.
And why not? Why might that happen?
He was a Metro PCS customer, and at that time, T-Mobile was going through an acquisition of Metro PCS, and the record keeping was a bit sketchy. We ended up obtaining records from both T-Mobile and Metro PCS, and we went back on multiple occasions to try to get more, but we were able to get basically partial records from both providers, but nothing that had location information for the June trip.
Okay. Okay, so we see that you've plotted her cell phone locations on this map, or the cell site locations that her phone was using on this map. After she's consistent with the area of Comfort Rental from 8:53 to 8:58, does she stay in the area or does she travel back to her home?
She will travel back. Here we can see for those events, when looking at the specific sector that her handset was using, it's further consistent with the Comfort rental car location. And then as you ask, she has events here we see on the left at 9:17, consistent with moving away from Comfort rental car. And then the next event with the location to the right-hand side being at 9:43 and 10:01, which will be consistent with her returning to the area of her residence.
Did you look at the records to see who Catherine Ragbanoa and any other parties in this case were talking to during this time frame?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that communication?
So this is, again, the call details summary. So this is where we've taken all of those kind of hard to read records from the carrier and we've put them in our software, and it's able to print out a report for us that's kind of easier to follow. We're able to attach names to phone numbers, And we're able to do time adjustments if we need to, so that we make sure that all of our records are in the correct time zone as well. So these are the communications starting at about 8:25 and running through approximately 11:30 for that evening of June 2nd. This is during the period of time that this rental car is being picked up and Ms. Magbano and Mr. Garcia are traveling back and forth.
That first call that we see to Geico, would that call be kind of during the time that she would be driving out to the Comfort rental area?
Yes.
Is she speaking to Sigfredo Garcia at all during that time frame where she's traveling out to Comfort?
She is not.
Could that be consistent with them being together during that time?
It could be, yes.
All right, so then looking at during the time that she's at Comfort and the time period, which was 8:53 to 8:57, I believe, and the time period when she's traveling back to her home, who is she on the phone with during that time?
She communicates with Mr. Adelson primarily.
Okay, can you tell us the duration of those calls with Charlie Adelson?
I can. The first at 8:57 is actually an outgoing call from Mr. Adelson to Ms. Magbanoa for 1 minute and 8 seconds. We have a call at 9:17 p.m. from Ms. Magbanoa to Mr. Adelson that is 25 minutes and 27 seconds long.
And that's the third call down from the top we see?
That's correct.
Okay, so that 25-minute call, she would have been on the phone with him for much of her drive back home from the car rental?
That's correct.
And who does she call as soon as she gets back home from the car rental after she hangs up with Mr. Adelson?
We have outgoing calls to Mr. Garcia at 10:01.
Okay, now I want you to walk us through this in just a second, and do we expect most of these parties to be talking to each other on a daily basis, given that the Adelsons are family members, given that Charlie Adelson is in a dating relationship with Catherine Magbanoa, and that Catherine Magbanoa has children with Sigfredo Garcia? Would we expect those folks to be talking to the person that they're in their respective relationship with?
Yes, I believe we would.
Okay, so are you going to be walking us throughout your presentation certain periods of communication, though, that stood out to investigators?
Yes.
And why did those, since these are people that all may be talking to each other anyway on a daily basis, why did these certain periods stick out to investigators?
Well, these are communications that occurred during periods of time where significant events were happening in this crime. And so this is the evening that the rental car, this is the first rental car, is being picked up, and this is the rental car that will subsequently be driven to Tallahassee in an attempt to murder Mr. Markel. So it's kind of the first, from my perspective and what I can see in the records, it's the first kind of physical act that I can see where there's something actually happening. Someone's traveling someplace to pick up a vehicle to go and do this thing. So that's why this period stood out. There are communications that occur during the trips while Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera are in Tallahassee. There are communications that occur then and communications that occur upon their return after the eventual homicide of Mr. Markel.
Are there other things about certain communications that stand out to investigators, like a quick turnaround between phone calls?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
We can see in this demonstrative here, the third call down we talked about is 25 minutes and 27 seconds. So Ms. Magbanoa and Mr. Adelson would have been on the phone from 9:17, add 25 minutes to that. And we see at 9:44, which is just about the time that call would have ended, Mr. Adelson then makes an outgoing call to the Adelson residence, also for 25 minutes and 32 seconds.
Okay, so looking at situations where one of these conspirators hangs up with one and immediately calls the other, that could be something that stands out to investigators.
Yes.
Okay. And then is another, I guess, detail in the communications, maybe calling a number that they might not ordinarily call?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so if you could walk us through the communications that we see, as you said, on like the night that the first physical act of this murder is occurring during this first trip to Tallahassee where this car is being rented.
So again, to help kind of visualize the calls, we can look at our subjects and then look at our communications. So we already mentioned the 8:57 call where Mr. Adelson calls in to Ms. Magbanoa, just over a minute. We have the next call at 9:17 p.m. This was the 27 or 25-minute phone call that we talked about.
And that's while she's on the way back from Comfort to her home?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so in this relatively short time frame, we're also kind of keeping track up here on this one at the top, how much, kind of the total time of communications that we have. So again, at 9:31, Wendy Adelson text Harvey Adelson. The phone call we already talked about from Mr. Adelson to the Adelson residence for 25 minutes. Catherine Magbanowa then communicating with Mr. Garcia. Mr. Garcia back to Ms. Magbanowa. Harvey Adelson calls Charlie Adelson. This is 10:16, and that's a 5-minute phone call, a little over 5 minutes. Charlie Adelson calls back for a little over 3 minutes. Ms. Magbanowa is communicating with Mr. Garcia again, and then Mr. Adelson for another 23-minute phone call. And then text messages from Mr. Garcia, or call and then text from Mr. Garcia to Ms. Magbanowa. To about an hour and 25 minutes of communication between our parties in this time frame.
Okay.
More here, 11:05, short calls or a 27-second call, and then a 4-minute phone call from Ms. Magbanowa to Mr. Garcia. Again, communication from Mr. Garcia back to Ms. Magbanowa. And that was the last.
All right, we saw a call from Charlie Adelson. You mentioned it. Catherine Magbanowa was talking to Charlie Adelson on her way back from dropping Garcia off at Comfort Rental. She talks to Charlie Adelson for 25 minutes on her way back, and then Charlie Adelson, after he gets off that call, calls his parents' landline, Harvey and Donna Adelson's landline.
That's correct.
Okay. Does the defendant, Charlie Adelson, most often talk to his parents on their cell phones or on their home landline?
We looked at, again, for all the records that we had for Mr. Adelson, and our analytical software is able to kind of tally up for us how many communications are with the cell phones, the combined cell phones of Mr. Harvey and Ms. Donna Adelson, compared to their landline or their home phone. And again, we know that events kind of make multiple records, and so we know that it may not be exactly 3,868 calls, but not all calls are completed, all of those. But statistically, we can see that there were only 28 contacts or attempted contacts between Mr. Adelson's cell phone and the Adelson residence, compared to a significantly greater number to the cell phones.
So you said 99.3% of his communication is with his parents' cell phones as opposed to the 0.7% of time he calls the landline.
That's correct.
All right. And are there actually, you said 28 contacts or 0.07%. Those 28 contacts, those are from May of 2014 through March of 2016, almost 2 years. There's only 28 contacts total.
That's correct.
And this is one of them that happened that night.
Yes.
And that was at a time, also in that call flurry you just showed us, there were calls where there was a long duration of a call to Harvey Adelson's cell phone as well, too, right?
Yes.
Are you familiar, I want to talk a little bit more about this landline call before we move on. Are you familiar with statements by Charlie Adelson on the wiretap, where Charlie Adelson tells people who call him on his cell phone that he'll call them back on a landline?
Yes.
As somebody who's familiar with technical operations of law enforcement and wiretapping, is there a perception, whether it be wrong or right, but is there a perception that talking on a landline phone is safer than talking on a cell phone as far as who can listen in or whether law enforcement can listen in?
Yes, I believe there is.
All right. Where was Rivera's handset during this time where the car was rented?
So again, knowing the approximate time for the car rental, we looked at Mr. Rivera's cell sites that his handset was using, and we can see that they're consistent with the area of his residence and would be inconsistent with the area of Comfort Rental.
Is there any evidence that Rivera was involved with the rental of this vehicle?
There's not.
All right, do we have any other evidence that law enforcement was able to find to show who rented the car on June 2nd besides the last rental contract we saw?
Yes, I believe you mentioned earlier a traffic citation. We did recover a traffic citation that was issued to Mr. Garcia. And in that, we can see that he is driving the rental vehicle, the same information from the rental contract.
Okay, and was this citation from 9:48 p.m. on June 2nd?
It is, yes.
So within an hour of renting this car, he got a traffic ticket.
He did.
All right, and that was in that silver Nissan Altima?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the statement that Jeffrey Lacoste drives a silver Nissan vehicle or drove that at the time of this murder?
No, I am familiar with that, yes.
Now, did this traffic ticket create a record that law enforcement would be in possession of? And that record memorialized the fact that Sigfredo Garcia is driving this silver Nissan rental car from Comfort on that day.
Yes.
All right, so after he got that traffic ticket that memorializes that law enforcement is going to have, what did he do next?
There was a change of vehicles. So we have an additional contract from Comfort Rental Car that indicates the vehicle was changed out for a blue Hyundai.
Okay, so then he goes back to Comfort, rents a different car.
That's correct.
All right, this time a blue Hyundai. And again, was it Garcia renting it and not Rivera?
That's correct.
All right. What can you tell us about the travel of Luis Rivera's handset on June 4th of 2014?
So again, Mr. Rivera is the only one that we have location information on for this period. And again, just looking at the cell sites that his handset is communicating with, we can see that it's consistent with leaving the South Florida, Miami area. We see down here at the bottom right, early morning hours of June 4th of 2014. And then we can see that it is consistent with getting into Tallahassee the early morning or later morning of June 4th.
Was Rivera's phone ever consistent with being near the victim, Dan Markel's home on Trescott Drive the following day on June 5th of 2014?
Yes, we did see a number of events where his handset was communicating with a cell site and a sector very close to Mr. Markel's residence.
Are you familiar with Rivera's statement in his interview that they were at a park near Markel's house?
Yes,
Was the phone information here, was that consistent with Winthrop Park near Trescott Drive?
it is. We can see here at the top the location of Trescott Drive, and the blue kind of square there represents the GPS information for the rental vehicle. The rental companies did have kind of asset recovery tracking on their vehicles, and they provided a location for the rental vehicle at 3:17 p.m. here on June 5th. And we can see that the vehicle and the cell site just down here would both be consistent with Winthrop Park, just on the south side of Benton Road there.
And sometime after this surveillance of Dan Markel, did Luis Rivera's handset end up traveling back down to the Miami area?
It did, yes. Immediately after that, we can see that the handset, again, just looking at the cell sites, would be consistent with traveling back down to the South Florida area that afternoon and evening of June 5th of 2014.
All right, did you look at the records to see what the communication, if any, was between the different parties during this June trip to Tallahassee?
Yes, we did.
Okay, can you tell us about that?
And again, just merely bracketing the period of time that the trip to Tallahassee was occurring, we can look at the communications. This is a summary of just the subjects in our investigation and other targets. So we've eliminated all the other people they're talking to and just focused on the phone calls where they're talking to other subjects in the investigation. But we can see that there are a number of events from the 2nd through the 5th.
Okay. Did Charlie Adelson contact Catherine McVanwa a number of times during this trip to Tallahassee?
Yes.
Okay. Was that about 10 times?
Yes. So again, looking at this, just this time kind of tallying up the number of contacts between our subjects, We can see, yes, Mr. Adelson contacted Ms. Magbanowa 10 times in this time frame,
What about Catherine Magbanowa to Charlie Adelson?
7 times,
And what about Catherine Magbanowa and Sigfredo Garcia?
12 times,
What about Sigfredo to Catherine Magbanowa?
5 times,
What about Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson?
5 times,
What about Donna Adelson to Charlie Adelson?
2 times,
What about Wendy Adelson to Donna Adelson?
2 times,
What about Wendy Adelson to Harvey Adelson?
1 time,
And what about contacts to Wendy Adelson to the Harvey and Donna landline?
we have 1 contact there.
Okay? And what about Wendy Adelson and Charlie Adelson?
We have Charlie and Harvey 1 time.
Okay?
We have Wendy and Charlie 1 time. Harvey and Donna 1 time. Ms. Magbanowa to Mr. Rivera 1 time.
And was that at his number he had in July of 2014, or was that an old number for him?
That was an old number for him.
Is that number, though, listed as Tato in her phone?
It is, yes.
Okay. But it wasn't working at the time of, or for the call detail records we have his new number.
That's correct.
Okay. So he had a new number at the time, even though she's calling an old number and not getting in touch with him.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay. And what about Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia?
We do see 1 contact between them as well.
Okay. All right, looking at June 6th of 2014, what can you tell us about the location of the rental vehicle that day?
Again, we were able to obtain kind of periodic locations for the vehicle. It was not constant tracking, but we were provided with another location that was at 8:48 a.m. on June 6th. We can see the location of the rental car by the blue square and its proximity to Ms. Magbanowa's residence.
So is that consistent with her being at her residence at that time?
It's consistent with the rental car being near her residence at that time.
Okay. All right, so I want to ask you about a message from the Cellbrite of Wendy Adelson's cell phone from July 6th of 2014. So chronologically, this is going to be after the June trip that we just saw, and it's going to be before the July trip where Dan Markel ended up being murdered. Was there a text sent on July 6th by Wendy Adelson to Dan Markel?
Yes.
All right, can you show that to us? Okay, what does this text say?
From Wendy Adelson, it inquires of Mr. Markel, are you in Tallahassee July 14th through the 18th? I just wanted to know if I can have the kiddos on the 16th. Thanks.
Okay, and he says, yes, you can.
He does.
All right, the dates that we see that Wendy Adelson is asking Dan Markel about, what is significant about those dates? July 14th through 18th.
Those would encompass the second trip to Tallahassee where Mr. Markel was murdered.
What happened on July 15th, which is in that date range?
15th would have been, I believe, the first rental vehicle,
So the
or
Prius,
second rental vehicle, sorry.
okay, so the Prius was rented on July 15th?
Yes,
Okay. And then on July 16th, that was the date that they traveled to Tallahassee?
yes,
Okay, Garcia and Rivera, I mean.
that's correct.
And on the 18th is when Dan Markel was murdered?
Correct.
Where was Wendy Adelson when this text message was sent?
So looking at her cell sites, we can see that she is in South Florida at this time. That text was sent, we see here around 10:47 to 10:49 is the AM, is the text exchange. 10:14 is the closest event that we have with cell site location for her. And we can see the location of the icon, which was the residence of Mr. Harvey and Donna Adelson at that time.
So Harvey and Donna Adelson lived in a condo in the Icon building at
Yes.
that time? Okay. Where was Charlie Adelson, the defendant, when that text message was sent?
So we have location information for him in the early morning hours of the 6th at 12:30 a.m. and the next event being at 11:46 a.m. Both of those are consistent with the proximity to Ms. Magbanowa's residence. Again, we don't have an event exactly at the time of that text message.
Now, July 6, 2014, was that a weekend day, a Saturday or a Sunday, I believe?
I believe it was, yes.
Was that weekend the weekend of Harvey Adelson's birthday at the Adelson residence?
Yes.
Did Charlie Adelson also go to his parents' home at the Icon on that day that this message was sent?
He did, yes. For events starting about 12:28 in the afternoon of that date through a little after 9, all of his communication events are connecting to cell sites in that area of the Icon.
All right, so now I want to go forward to the July trip to Tallahassee. Can you walk us through, well, I want to talk about the location information surrounding the trip to Tallahassee that took place that week of July 14th that we saw referenced in the text message before. Whose phone records did you have location information for the July trip?
As far as those traveling, we had location for both Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera.
Okay, so before we had only Rivera, but now we've got both for the July trip.
That's correct.
Okay, was it a similar situation as the June trip where they rented a car in Miami and drove to Tallahassee?
Yes.
All right. You told us before that July 15th was the day that that car, that Prius, was rented. For the June trip, we looked at the night before the car was rented, and we saw some activity and some things on that day. Did you look at the night before the Prius was rented on July 14th, 2014 for the July trip?
We did, yes.
Okay, can you walk us through that night before the Prius was rented? Walk us through the communications and what happened that night.
So we see communication here between Ms. Magbanowa, Mr. Charlie Adelson, and Mr. Garcia. We have some calls starting here in this summary a little after 7 p.m. and going through just prior to 2 a.m. will be the morning of the 15th.
And when you say between the three of them, you mean Catherine Magbanowa was talking to Charlie Adelson, and then Catherine Magbanowa was also talking to Sigfredo Garcia at different times?
That's correct.
Okay. Garcia and Adelson are never talking?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Were you able to find location data or any messages between Adelson and Magbanowa that night?
Yes. And again, going to the iCloud return and looking on that date, we see a text message or a message from Mr. Adelson to Ms. Magbanowa where he indicates he had just tried calling her. We see that's at 8:56. At the top, we can see there was, in fact, at 8:53, an outbound call from Mr. Adelson to Ms. Magbanowa that only had a 1-second duration.
Does his handset end up going down towards her residence?
It does, yes. He indicates in messages that he's 5 minutes away and then on 79 in response to her request to eat closer to her. And then we can see he has a cell site event at 9:27 p.m. where, again, his handset will be in the proximity of Ms. Magbanowa's residence.
Okay. And what time did he end up leaving that residence for good that night?
Well, there's some travel around after that. The handset returns to that area a little before 12:40. We have an event at 12:42 a.m. where we can see the handset is again in the area of Ms. Magbanowa's residence. And then the next event we have at 1:02 a.m. we can see here to the left and up indicates that the handset has moved away from the area of her residence.
Okay. Now going back, if you don't mind, to the call flurry, to the list of calls we saw, who does Catherine Magbanowa communicate with immediately after Charlie Adelson leaves the area consistent with her home that night?
So we see down the list here at 12:48 a.m.
So that's about halfway through?
That's about halfway through, yes.
Okay.
We see an outbound call from Ms. Magbanowa to Mr. Garcia.
Okay. And what time did you have him last consistent with her residence?
That was at 12:42.
Okay, so 12:42 a.m. is the last time that Charlie Adelson is consistent with Magbanowa's residence. After he leaves the area, we then see him quite a bit north at 1-something a.m.
Correct.
Approximately 6 minutes, though, after he last is consistent with the area, she's calling Sigfredo Garcia.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Can we now look at July 15th of 2014, which is going to be the day of the Prius rental?
Yes. Again, we have a number of communications between all of our parties for that day. And again, this summary is limited to just those persons. But we can see as we go through here, one of the first calls, Mr. Garcia does communicate with other people in the overnight hour, but we see that at 9 a.m., he makes an outbound call to the Comfort rental car, which is the same rental company from the previous vehicle rental.
So we see Charlie Adelson leave the area consistent with her residence at 12:42. Then she calls Garcia at 12:48. And then there's a number of other calls, it looks like, between Magbanua and Garcia in the 1 o'clock hour that morning?
Yes,
All right. And then Garcia, you said, calls Comfort Rental basically first thing in the morning, as soon as that, probably shortly after that company would have opened at 9 a.m.
yes, I don't know their exact hours, but yes, it's early in the morning.
Okay. All right. So he calls Comfort Rental, and then what happens next?
There's a series of calls throughout the day between, again, all of our parties. We see that at 4:28 p.m. Is when he makes a call to Hybrid or Save Gas, which ended up being the rental company for the Prius. We see that call is made. And we see that there are a number of communications between, again, all of our parties, but ending down here at the bottom, just after 6, with Mr. Rivera, between Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera.
Was there regular communication between Garcia and Magbanua that day?
There was, yes.
And Garcia and Rivera?
Yes.
All right, so was law enforcement able to find that car rental agreement from Save Gas?
We were, yes.
All right, can you walk us through that?
So again, just a couple of excerpts from that rental contract. We can see that the renter's name is Luis Rivera. We see written above that the indication of brother, and it provides a phone number that is Mr. Garcia's phone number. And then down here at the bottom, we can see the Toyota Prius. We can see the color of it, the license plate, but that's the vehicle information, and that it shows being out at 6:15 p.m.
Okay, can you tell us about their locations at that time? Did they have locations consistent with being at that rental?
So looking at both of their location information, Mr. Rivera, by the nature of his carrier, has more events. He has several events with a cell site in very close proximity to the Save Gas rental. And Mr. Garcia has an event at 6:11. Again, the car was out at 6:15. And he has an event also on a cell site in the immediate area of the Save Gas rental.
All right, can you walk us through the communication between all of these players the day that this car was rented and right afterwards?
So again, the evening time hours on the date of this rental, we can see that there are a number of communications. And again, kind of looking at a summary of that, looking at the communications this time just between people, kind of tallying those together. But we can see that Charlie Adelson contacts the Adelson residence 3 times. Again, this is the evening hours of the 15th. 3 times for a combined 44 minutes and 17 seconds.
And so you said before that there's only 28 calls total from him to his parents' residence from 2013 to 2016. But now, from the time that the first car was rented that night, and then now, again, the time that the second car was rented, 4 of those 28 calls are those days.
Yes.
Okay. What's next?
We have Mr. Harvey Adelson being contacted by the Adelson residence.
Could that be consistent with Donna Adelson being present at the residence and talking on the landline phone?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
We have 5 communications between Mr. Adelson, Charlie Adelson, and Ms. Magbanua, combined a little over 11, almost 12 minutes of communication. 32 times, again, communications or attempted communications between Ms. Magbanua and Mr. Garcia, only about 7 minutes and 41 seconds of communication. Mr. Rivera and Mr. Garcia communicate 10 times, a little over 3 minutes of communication. I believe that's it.
Okay. And on July 15th, Did any of the parties ever meet up that night?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that?
Well, we see in, again, going back to the call detail summary, this is Mr. Garcia's records, we see that he has a number of communications to Ms. Magbanua, and that ends at 9:30. So we have a number of attempts. We see here 8:45 up through 9:30, a number of communications or attempts, and then it kind of ends at 9:30. So what we see, looking at Ms. Magbanua's locations, that would be consistent with her being at her residence. And then if we look at Mr. Garcia's resident or Mr. Garcia's cell site information after that 9:30 timeframe, we see that his location information would also be consistent with her residence.
Okay, and was there a GPS that that pinged that night, and where was that?
Yes, and we also see that, again, another location from the rental vehicle, and we see it's represented by the blue square, its proximity to her residence.
Okay, and did Garcia and Rivera's phones appear to leave the Miami area the next day on July 16th of 2014?
They did, yes. Here again, we have Mr. Rivera's information represented by the blue towers, Mr. Garcia by the orange, and we can see that both of their handsets are consistent with traveling from Miami to Tallahassee. Obviously, we have a number of events here in this time frame, and so we can't see every single time. Some of them are kind of hidden behind other labels, but we can pretty clearly see the general time frame of that trip getting into Tallahassee in the very early morning hours of the 17th.
All right, were either of their phones ever consistent with being near Markel's residence on Trescott on July 17th, the next day, which was the day that Rivera said that they were doing some surveillance on Markel?
Yes, again, here we see the location of Mr. Markel's residence on Trescott Drive by the yellow flag. We see the blue arrows that represent the cell sites and sectors that Mr. Rivera's handset was communicating with. We can see how those are oriented, that they're both towards the area of Mr. Adelson's or Mr. Markel's residence. We also see a cell site and sector represented by the orange arrow for Mr. Garcia. We see it's also oriented towards the residence and will be consistent with being in that area.
Was there communication between all the conspirators between July 16th and July 17th during this travel to Tallahassee and on the day that there was surveillance done in Tallahassee on July 16th and 17th?
Yes, again, this is just the summary of the communication during that time frame. We can see again that there are a number of communications between our involved parties.
If we could focus in on the very late night hours on July 17th of 2014. So this would be the night before Dan Markel was murdered.
That's correct. The night before and into the very early morning hours of Mr. Markel's murder. We do see events here starting at 10:18, and same thing, we can kind of look through and see who's communicating with who. 10:18, we have a call from Charlie Adelson to Don Adelson for about 4.5 minutes. Another call for just over 4 minutes at 10:29. We have Ms. Magbanua again attempting to contact Mr. Rivera at the old number, same number we saw earlier. Ms. Magbanua attempting to call Mr. Garcia. Another attempt to Mr. Rivera's old number. We're now at 11:41. There is a call to Mr. Garcia for about 10 minutes.
Could these calls previous to that be consistent with her not being able to reach Garcia, so she calls a friend of his to try to talk to him?
Yes, generally preceding the calls to Mr. Rivera's old number, we see attempts into Mr. Garcia where they do not appear to connect. They're very short duration, which could be consistent with her not being able to get hold of Mr. Garcia, and then the attempt to Mr. Rivera's old number.
Okay, so it ringing or maybe leaving a voicemail, but not like some long conversation.
Correct.
Okay, so what's next?
See 12:01, Ms. Magbanua again reached out for Mr. Garcia. 12:07, Mr. Charlie Adelson is contacting Ms. Magbanua, a little over 3.5 minutes. 12:30, Ms. Magbanua calls Mr. Adelson back, 53 seconds. There's an outgoing call at 1:02. It does not really have a duration, but there is an outgoing call in Mr. Adelson's records to Donna Adelson.
And this is at 1 a.m.?
That's at 1:02 a.m.
Okay, and then what does he do next?
And then at 1:03, immediately after, there is the outbound call to Ms. Magbanowa for almost 20 minutes.
All right, so now if we can go to the next day, July 18th of 2014, the day Dan Markel was murdered. What can you tell us about communication between all of these players that morning?
So again, same summary for the morning of the 18th. We can see communications between our involved subjects here, and we have an indication here this would represent the time that Mr. Markel was murdered between these events, and we can look at these kind of in detail again as we have.
Okay, and what do we see as far as their communication?
So here we have also included the information from Wendy Adelson's forensic extraction or her Cellbrite report. So we're able to see other things that were contained in her phone. And one of the first things we see is that she had a calendar entry for that day for listed as fixed TV.
Now we see that it's deleted.
Yes,
When would that have been deleted?
sometime prior to our analysis of the handset.
And your analysis of the handset was done that same day?
It was done, yes, the afternoon of the 18th.
Okay, so this calendar event, fixed TV, was deleted at some point before her phone was taken by law enforcement and looked at that afternoon?
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Then we see that there is an outbound call from Wendy Adelson to Donna Adelson.
And that's starting at 8:09 in the morning?
That's correct.
Okay,
An immediate return attempt. And then a text message. Again, this is from Wendy Adelson's handset itself, but there is a return text message or a text message from Donna Adelson to Wendy communicating about Best Buy and coming by for the repair of the TVs.
okay, she says, Best Buy just called me and I told them to confirm with you. They are on their way over now to help you with the TV set in your living room.
Yes.
Okay. All right, what's next?
We have a text from Wendy Adelson to Charlie Adelson stating, "This is so sweet."
We see that that's deleted.
It is, yes.
That would have also been deleted prior to law enforcement analyzing her cell phone that afternoon, the same day as Dan Markel's murder.
That's correct.
Okay, what's next?
An attempt from Charlie Adelson to call Wendy Adelson. And then a return call from Wendy Adelson to Charlie that lasted just over 18 minutes.
Okay, and what about after that 18-minute call between Charlie Adelson and Wendy Adelson?
Well, this would probably be almost during that, but there's a 9:38 call, or just after that, from Charlie Adelson to Donna Adelson, an attempt for 30 seconds. And then at 9:57, again, an outbound from Charlie Adelson to Miss Magbanowa, 12 seconds. Return call, 9:58, 13 seconds. And again, Mr. Adelson to Miss Magbanowa for 6 minutes and 46 seconds. Charlie Adelson again attempts to call Wendy Adelson at 10:06 a.m. 10:07, 10:08, there's a couple of contacts between Miss Magbanowa and Mr. Adelson, one just over a minute and one about 9 seconds. And then 10:09, Charlie Adelson call to Miss Magbanowa for 5 minutes and 54 seconds. I believe that's all.
All right, and then I guess the last time we have here is 10:09 a.m. By less than an hour after that, Dan Markel is murdered.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so what can you tell us about, I know you already showed us Dan Markel's locations the morning that he was murdered. Could you show those to us one more time?
I can, yes.
Okay.
So again, we have the Trescott Drive where he departed from. the Creative Preschool where he dropped his kids off, and Premier Health and Fitness where he worked out before returning back to Trescott Drive.
What can you tell us about Rivera and Garcia's handset locations that morning, looking at phone records and also any other evidence that law enforcement was able to gather?
So again, from the surveillance video of Premier Health and Fitness, we do see the green Prius entering the parking lot, following Mr. Markel. We know from Mr. Garcia's records, we have events at 9:36 a.m. and 9:58 a.m. where his handset is communicating with a cell site in a sector that will be consistent with Premier Health and Fitness. And Mr. Rivera's handset has the events we see here between about 9:14 and 9:44, all of them together, that are communicating with two different cell sites and sectors, again, both of which would be consistent with a handset being at or near Premier Health and Fitness.
And these are two different carriers, you said, right?
That's correct.
But they're in the same location, even though they're communicating with cell sites that are in different places.
Yes, sometimes the carriers are what we call co-located, where we may have more than one carrier at the same set base, same site, sometimes on the same tower or same equipment, and then sometimes they will have towers that are not that close or in different locations from the other carriers. So here we can see between the orange arrows and the blue arrows that AT&T and T-Mobile have some cell sites that are close together and some that are further apart. But all of those, the ones that are being used, will be consistent with a handset at or near their Premier Health and Fitness.
All right, so even though they don't have any other locations after 9:58 a.m. For cell phone events, what time do we know that they left the Premier Gym area from the surveillance video?
We see the time on the surveillance video just after 10:38 a.m. We see Mr. Markel's vehicle, and then we see the green Prius, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Rivera, again leaving the gym area.
All right, so Garcia's last location from his cell phone records was 9:58 a.m. when he was consistent with Premier. What's the location for his next active event on his cell phone?
So the next event that we see is at 12:30 p.m. We can see here that it has traveled a reasonable distance from Tallahassee before we see that next event.
And is he the orange dot here with 12:30 p.m. next to it?
He is, yes.
Okay, that's looks around about Gainesville-ish area,
North of that, yes.
a little north of Gainesville. All right, so that's the first phone call that Garcia made after leaving Premier?
Yes, that's the first event with location that we have.
Looking at his phone records, what do his phone records indicate about the status of his phone during that time where we don't see any events?
Well, what we see the 9:58 event, an incoming text. We see some events, 12:18, 12:19. There's two incoming calls from this 305 number, very short duration, and we don't see locations for those. So those calls did not reach the handset. Powered off, battery went dead, broken, whatever it may be, but those calls did not reach the handset. 12:29 and 12:30, we see these short codes or these short three-digit numbers here, and those are associated with T-Mobile voicemail events. And then immediately at 12:30, we have the outgoing voice call that provides location. So that would indicate that the handset was now back in service with the network.
And could that be consistent with him turning off his phone after he left Premier and then powering it back on after he figured he was far enough away from Tallahassee?
It could be consistent with that, yes.
And then who was his first call at 12:30 when he was north of Gainesville? Who was the first call that either of these, Garcia or Rivera, makes after the murder?
Miss McBanowin.
Okay, can you show that to us? That was the 12:30 call?
Yes,
We see a very short duration. Is that 20 seconds?
it is, yes.
Okay. All right, switching gears here. I want to see where Wendy Adelson was during that late morning, early afternoon time when Markel was murdered and during the couple hours after. Are you familiar with her statement about her locations on July 18th as far as being at home for her TV repair appointment, then going to ABC Liquors to buy a gift, and then going to lunch at Mosaic?
Yes, I am.
All right, based on her call detail records, were you able to determine what time she would have gone by the Trescott Drive area?
Yes, we do know the location of her residence at the time, here on Aqua Ridge Way. We do know that she was going to the ABC. This was located on Thomasville Road. Looking at her records, she has a rather lengthy voice call, begins at 12:31 p.m. We see that's on a cell site that would be consistent with the general area of her residence. We see at 12:35 p.m., kind of in the middle of the screen here, her handset's now kind of halfway between there, and then that call ends at 12:47 p.m., and it ends on a cell site here very close to ABC liquor store. So looking at that, again, the receipt time, 12:49, the call ending time, 12:47, we can kind of approximate that she would have been by the Trescott residence, at 10 or so minutes earlier than that.
Okay, are you familiar with Officer Brandon's statements that he saw a person in a red van that matched the description of Wendy Adelson's vehicle at the roadblock at Trescott Drive that day in the 12 to 1 o'clock hour?
Yes.
All right. About what time would she have been in the area of Trescott Drive when she's on her way from home to ABC?
Well, again, I would say sometime between 12:35 and 12:47, or 12:49 for sure at the absolute, because she would have been in the store at that point for the transaction. So sometime in that 12:40 timeframe.
Okay. Now, did Dan Markel have he and Wendy Adelson's children the morning of July 18th?
He did, yes.
All right. And he had taken them to school that morning, right?
Yes.
All right. Looking at her Cellbrite, were you able to see her calls that morning after she would have passed this Trescott Drive area?
Yes.
All right. After driving by that street, the road being blocked, the crime scene tape, and police cars, did she attempt to contact Dan Markel to make sure he was okay or the kids were okay?
Here we've kind of highlighted the calls that were made after that time, starting at 12:47, and we can see that they're to a variety of people. None of them were Mr. Markel.
Did she attempt to contact Creative Preschool to make sure the kids made it to school? There wasn't some type of incident at the house.
She did not.
Did she attempt to call 911 or law enforcement to check and see what was going on since her kids were staying on that street?
She did not.
She just continued on to ABC and then up to Mosaic?
Correct.
Now, are you familiar with the area at Thomasville Road and I-10 where Mosaic was located back in 2014 when it was around?
Yes.
Were there any liquor stores in that area back in July of 2014?
There were, yes.
Okay, which ones?
So we have the Publix liquor store. They're off of Thomasville Road. Market Square Liquors, Market Square Shopping Center, and there is another ABC location a little further north on Thomasville Road.
What route could she have taken to one of those three liquor stores?
Of many, one of the routes is the one depicted here by the red dashed lines, which would have taken her up Centerville Road and then over to Thomasville and down to Mosaic.
What route did she actually take to go to the ABC liquor down on Thomasville and then to Mosaic?
So we can see here her path would have been the purple line, and the shortest distance again being the red dotted line.
Now, obviously that looks like the shortest distance, but how much shorter are we talking about?
Oops. So we can only, our mapping, our GIS software is able to provide approximate travel times and distances, kind of like Google Maps. And so what we can see is that the miles for the shortest route would have been 3.63, and they estimate travel time in about 11 minutes. The other travel was almost 9.5 miles, which they estimate travel at a little over 20 minutes.
Okay, so switching gears here again one more time. Still on July 18th, but now switching back to Garcia and Rivera, who we last heard had their cell phone records were consistent with turning off the phones, turning them back on again above Gainesville, a call from Garcia to Magbanua for 20 seconds. What happens after that?
So again, yes, we see their travel back. There's fewer communications, fewer dots on the map. during their
Fewer
return.
drops than when they drove up?
Correct, sorry, yes.
Okay,
We see they reach the South Florida area just after 6 p.m. On the evening or afternoon of the 18th. And then the first thing we see or information we have is a ATM transaction from Mr. Rivera.
okay. Based on the ATM transaction that was seen in the bank records, what did law enforcement do?
So first, we look at the location information from the handsets to make sure that it's consistent. We do see around the time of that transaction, we do see both Mr. Rivera and Mr. Garcia's handsets communicating with cell sites around the area of the bank. And then investigators were able to locate the surveillance video from the ATM. We can see Mr. Rivera, we see Mr. Garcia in the passenger seat, and we see the green Prius.
Okay. Continuing on, once they get back to Miami, after they go to this ATM, can you show us the communication between all these parties on July 18th that evening? Okay,
Yes.
so what we see here is all the communication between all of these parties, starting at that 12:30 call from Garcia to Magbanua, and then down through midnight that night?
Down through 10:20 in this particular summary. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, can we focus in on later that evening, and I believe the 9 o'clock hour?
Yes.
Okay, so who is Catherine Magbanua communicating with that evening around that time?
Well, we see communication with Mr. Adelson and Mr. Garcia, but the communications with Mr. Garcia end here. This 9:46 is the last event where her handset communicates with Mr. Garcia's that evening.
Okay, and who also is she talking with that evening?
In addition to the communication with our subjects that we've been looking at, we've added in Ms. Yindra Mascaro, and we see that Ms. Magbanua is communicating with her through the evening hours also on the 18th of July.
Okay, and are you familiar with the statements from Ms. Mascaro, Ms. Magbanua? Ms. Mascaro babysits her kids or was babysitting her kid on the night of July 18th?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so after her communication with Ms. Mascaro, what happens next?
So what we see events earlier in the lower right-hand side, we see cell site events in the 7:10 to 8:46, which would be consistent with Ms. Magbanua's residence. The next events we see 9:20, 9:23, be consistent with her moving away. And ultimately 9:42, one of those last events we saw with Mr. Garcia, her handset is now communicating with a cell site in proximity to Mr. Rivera's residence. We know that also on the way is Ms. Mascaro's residence, relatively on the way.
Okay, so that could be consistent with her dropping her children off at Mascaro's and then heading back up towards Rivera's residence?
Yes.
Okay, so what about Garcia and Rivera? Were they ever consistent with Rivera's residence that evening?
Yes. Here, for Ms. Magbanua, her 9:46, 9:47 events, and looking at the sector that she's using, again, consistent with Mr. Rivera's residence. And if we look at all of the cell site usage for Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera, they are also consistent with the area of Mr. Rivera's residence.
Okay, and who did she speak to on the phone during the 10 o'clock hour?
There's contacts with Mr. Adelson. We see at 10:12, there is Mr. Adelson attempts to call Ms. Magbanua 2 seconds, and then at 10:20, Ms. Magbanua calls Mr. Charlie Adelson for 1 minute and 56 seconds.
Were you able to find any other evidence about Catherine Magbanua and Charlie Adelson's plans that night?
Yes, again, going back to her location information here, the 10:20, 10:22, she is consistent still with the area of Mr. Rivera's residence for those two events. And then we see communication from the iCloud through the evening hours of the 18th between Mr. Adelson and Ms. Magbanua.
Okay, and it appears Charlie Adelson's pretty busy at work that evening?
Yes.
Okay. At 8:23, he says, just finishing, I'm not feeling good. Maybe we can just hang out at my house.
That's correct.
Okay. And this statement about he's not feeling good, would that be before Catherine Magbanua Would that be before Catherine Magbanua goes to Charlie Adelson's house that evening?
It would be, yes.
Okay, so at 8:23, she's still more consistent with her residence and on her way to Rivera's residence.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so after he says he's not really feeling well, maybe they can just hang out at their house. Then we see the call with them, you said at I believe, 10:20?
Yes,
All right, and where she's still consistent with Rivera's house at that time?
that's correct.
What can you tell us about Charlie Adelson's locations?
So we can see first event here, 9:19 p.m. We see the cell site is represented by the green dots. At the top of our screen, 9:21, a little further south, and then 9:40 and 11:39. The next events we have with location would be consistent with the area of his residence.
Okay. Now, who arrived at Charlie Adelson's residence during the time when Magbanua was still consistent with Rivera's residence?
Donna and Hartby Adelson.
Okay.
Objection,
What is the objection?
foundation.
Approach.
I could rephrase my question, Judge, too. Would that be all right? Okay.
Go ahead and do that.
Was there some evidence in the iCloud involving messages between Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson where she says she is at his house on the evening of July 18th during a time when Catherine Magbanua is still more consistent with Rivera's house?
Yes,
Okay, can you show us that message?
I can.
Okay, so Donna Adelson here says, call us ASAP at 7:12 p.m.
Yes,
And then at 8:59 p.m., she says, outside your house.
yes,
And Charlie Adelson says 10 minutes at 9:19.
correct.
Okay. About 10 minutes from when he sent that text message, so maybe about 9:30 p.m. Is that when he's consistent with being at his house?
Yes,
And according to this message, his mother is already there.
that's correct.
All right. Does Charlie Adelson stay at his house that evening?
He does, yes.
Okay, so the location we saw before, he was still there at 11:39 p.m.
That's correct.
All right. Let's go to the next day then, July 19th, 2014. So this would be the morning after the murder of Dan Markel. What can you tell us about Charlie Adelson's location that morning?
So we see his events 10:22 through 11:09 a.m. He's still communicating with a cell site adjacent to his residence.
Okay, and what can you tell us about the communication from Catherine Magbanua's phone that morning?
Well, we see that we have some events here, 3:08. This is again the morning of the 19th, just Miss Magbanua's records. We see 3 attempts from Mr. Garcia to call her, beginning at 3:08 through 3:26 a.m., and they're all short duration, 41 seconds or less. But those are 3 incoming calls from Mr. Garcia to Miss Magbanua. Those,
Go ahead.
those records do not have location. So again, meaning that those calls did not actually reach her handset, or handset was not in communication with a network at that time.
Okay, thank you. That was my question, was did she have location? So no location because her phone was not connected to the network. Could that be consistent with her phone being off?
Yes,
So the last location then we have from her before the morning of July 19th is when she's consistent with being near Rivera's residence and she's speaking to Charlie Adelson on the phone about 10:20 p.m. the night before.
that's correct.
Okay. What is Catherine Magbanua's first location on her call detail records that next morning on July 19th?
So the first location that we see, we saw the calls, the outbound calls there at 9:44 a.m. We can see the cell sites, again, hers represented by the red dots. That will be consistent with travel south from the area of Mr. Adelson's residence, or somewhere south of that towards Mr. Rivera's residence.
Okay, so could this be consistent with her leaving Rivera's residence, turning her phone off, going to Charlie Adelson's home as they discussed in those texts we saw, and then turning her phone back on as she's coming from the direction of his house?
Yes,
All right, and if from the records you just showed us, it looks like she was repeatedly trying to reach Sigfredo Garcia starting at 9:44 a.m.
That's correct.
Was she able to reach him? Did any of those calls connect?
They did not.
Why not?
Well, if we look at Mr. Garcia's records, we can see here that he has an event at 5:12 a.m. Where there is a successful completion of that call, and then his events starting at 7:09 have no location. This is a sample of the T-Mobile records, Metro PCS records, and we see that there is no cell site identifier, so none of these calls after that are reaching his phone. So again, his handset is now off the network, unable to communicate, battery went dead, whatever the case may be, but there is no more events in his records that actually reach his handset.
What was his last known location before his phone went off the network?
It would have been the area of his girlfriend's residence at that point.
Okay, was her name Stephanie Carmona?
Yes.
Okay. And could this be consistent with him basically getting rid of, dumping his phone the night of Dan Markel's murder or the early morning hours, the morning afterwards?
Yes.
Does he ever have any more communication on the phone after that?
For the records that we have, there are no more originating communications. There's no communications that actually reach the handset. There's no indication that that handset is used at all after this 5:12 a.m. event.
Okay. Now tell us about the other attempted communication with Sigfredo Garcia's phone on July 19th that morning that are relevant to this case.
So there are a number of communications between, again, Ms. Magbanawa attempting to reach Mr. Garcia. Ms. Magbanawa reaches out to another phone number as associated with Mr. Rivera and Mr. Garcia, attempts to communicate with them. And then for the first time, we see Mr. Rivera actually call in to Ms. Magbanawa from his actual phone. And there's more calls that go back and forth throughout the morning. And then all that kind of culminates at 10:31 a.m. where we see that last communication between where Ms. Magbanawa was trying to communicate with either Mr. Rivera or Mr. Garcia.
And that number associated with him, that Anthony Ortiz person, is he a documented kind of friend of Garcia and Rivera's?
Yes.
Okay. So this could be consistent with her not being able to get in touch with him, so she's calling friends of his to find him.
That's correct.
All right. And what about Rivera's location that morning? What did his records show us?
He shows us that he was near his residence, and then at some point he travels to the area consistent with Miss Carmona's residence, Mr. Garcia's girlfriend's residence, and then returns to the area of his residence.
Could that be consistent with nobody being able to get in touch with Garcia, so Rivera goes out to find him, get him, and bring him back?
Yes.
Okay. And does this kind of flurry of attempts to get in touch with Garcia abruptly stop at the 10:30 time frame?
Yes.
And that's when the calls between Magbanawa and Rivera stop too?
Correct.
All right. What is the next, or tell us about the location then at 10:31 after this flurry stops?
So picking up with Miss Magbanawa's locations from the previous 9:47 a.m., she's getting closer to Mr. Rivera's residence. Events from 10:02 to 10:25 is communicating with a cell site, again, relatively close to Mr. Rivera's residence. And then that final event, we saw that final communication at 10:31 a.m. We see, again, looking at the sector that her handset is using, that it is consistent with Mr. Rivera's residence.
So could this be or is Rivera's location here after his phone travels out from Carmona's and back?
Yes, we do have events with Mr. Rivera. These are the times, approximate location of the cell sites, again, consistent with his residence.
All right, so could it be that Magbanawa, Garcia, and Rivera are all consistent with being at Rivera's residence at the same time that morning?
It could be, yes.
Okay. All right, when is Catherine Magbanawa's next communication on her phone?
So the next communication that we have is 11:23 a.m. It's an
So
outgoing.
about 50 minutes later?
Yes.
All right, and where was her phone located 50 minutes later at 11:23?
So 11:23, we see the cell site and sector that her handset is using. It will be consistent with having moved away from Mr. Rivera's. It's now south of Mr. Rivera's, and could be consistent with Miss Mascaro's residence.
Okay. Could this be consistent with her leaving Adelson's house that morning morning, dropping the money off, and then going to pick up her kids from Mascaros.
Yes.
All right, I want to move on to our next section, which is, I wanted to ask you about some different messages that you found in the iCloud, and then we'll be done.
Okay.
So, the defense theory in this case is that Catherine O'Banoa frantically showed up at the defendant's home the night of July 18th, informed him that some violent men killed his brother-in-law, and were now blackmailing him. Were there any text messages between Magbanoa and Adelson about blackmail or extortion in the days following the Dan Markel murder?
Certainly none that I found.
Can you show us the text between Magbanoa and the defendant in the week that followed the murder?
So these are some text from that week. This would be July 19th. This would be the day after the homicide. These texts start at 12:13, just after noon on the 19th. And we see them going back and forth about going to the pool or the beach, and kind of casual conversation.
Okay, so this is the same day of all the call activity we just saw.
Yes.
And locations we just saw. And so sometime after noon at 12:13, Charlie Adelson says he's headed to the gym. Are you going to the beach? It's so nice.
Yes.
Okay. Looking at also that week, looking at your next slide, July 22nd. They're talking a little bit about the weather, how late it is in the day. Catherine Magbanoa asked for Jerry to call in a prescription scalp medication.
Yes, a prescription for shampoo.
Okay, prescription shampoo. Okay. All right, and what's next?
So on July 23rd,
So on this one, Charlie Adelson says, don't forget to text Jerry your info. He'll call it in the morning, sweet dreams. And then later, she says something that he says laugh out loud to.
correct, yes.
All right? What's next?
So the July 25th,
So on July 25th, she says, have a good day, smiley face. He says, you too.
yes.
In all of the messages, in all of the messages from the records between this defendant and Catherine Magbanoa from 2014 to 2016, are there any messages where they discuss Charlie Adelson being blackmailed or extorted or violent people wanting to hurt his family, anything like that?
None that I found.
During those years, though, do the defendant and Catherine Magbanoa stay in regular contact with each other, even after they break up that fall in
Yes.
2014? Okay. From the messages, do they appear to have a close friendship?
They do, yes.
Okay. And when I say in regular contact, sometimes they talk multiple times a day, every day.
Correct.
All right. Can you show us just a couple of examples of their close friendship? Can you show us October 6th, 2014?
Yes, so this talks, and these be 2:18 in the morning, 2:18 in the afternoon of October 6th. There's communication about him being a good father, potential to be a good father.
Okay. And she's saying that you have to find the right girl that you can deal with and to see if she's worth it.
Yes,
Okay. And what's next? And if she gives you hell, Catherine Magbanoa will set her straight, winky face, and he says, I love you. It makes me feel good that you care about me. I'm very lucky to have you as part of my life. And he says, I'll always care about you.
that's
Or
correct.
she says that, rather.
That's correct.
All right. Next, she says, no, can we go back to the next one then after he says he's lucky to have her as part of his life?
Yes, I'm going to need to fix something on that slide.
Okay, no problem. Judge, for time purposes, maybe you have 10 minutes left, I would say, 15 minutes left, if that. Okay. Can you show us the next one? Okay, I
Yes.
think that's the last one we read. Okay. Can you go to the next one after that? All right. She says, just a second. Okay. Here she says, I always know, this is in February of 2015, is that correct?
Correct, February 24th.
She says, see, I always know how to make you smile. He says, yes, you do. She says, good, I love you. He says, I love you too.
Correct.
All right, what's next? On October 27th of 2015, she says, hey, you're probably busy celebrating your birthday. I just want to thank you so much for helping me out. I love you. I love you. Have a great birthday. I hope I see you soon this week. And he says, can't wait to get lunch with you. You're the best, and I'm lucky to have you as a friend for life. Smiley face.
Yes.
Okay, what's next? All right, and then this one they kind of exchange, you don't miss me, I do miss you, with some, okay.
Yep.
Go to the next one. All right. This one, they're talking about something, and he ends it with, LOL, you're the best.
Correct.
And LOL, does that mean laugh out loud?
It does, yes.
All right. Were you involved in securing a wiretap of some of the suspects in this case in 2016?
Yes.
And what is a wiretap?
A wiretap is sort of a general term for our ability to intercept either wire communications, something said over a phone line, electronic communications, maybe a text, or oral communications, things that are spoken. But when law enforcement is able to lawfully intercept those to record them during the course of an investigation.
Does an order have to be signed by a judge and sent to the phone carrier in order to have authority to conduct a wiretap?
Yes.
And so because of that, I mean, are we able to go back and listen to the content of these phone calls that we've seen today from back in 2014?
No, we don't have the ability to go back and record phone calls in the past. The only way that we would know about communications would be if we were to extract a phone, like we see the Cellbrite extractions or forensic extractions of phones. We may be able to see some text messages, but we don't have the ability to capture things back in the past.
At that time, we didn't know that a crime was about to be committed.
That's correct.
Okay. But if for a wiretap investigation, police can get that order to listen to suspects' phones in real time.
That's correct.
All right. Can you explain to the jury what type of equipment is needed to conduct a wiretap?
Certainly, it's relatively complicated in today's world, but there is equipment on the carrier side where they're able to send us information about the activity, the text message content, and information about the calls, who's calling who, all of that information. And then they're also able to send us the actual content. So they're able to send us the audio when someone's on a phone call of what's being spoken. And then we have computer servers that receive that information and software that displays it for us, an intercept kind of interface where we're able to see the incoming calls. We have some controls where we can play calls back, and we can see calls for the day, write synopsis for them as they're coming in. So it's again, a lot of computer equipment necessary to conduct that.
Do the people who are listening or monitoring to these calls in real time have to go through certain types of training to do that?
They do. First, we do what we call minimization training. And we are not, law enforcement, we're not allowed to intercept calls that may be privileged or not relevant to the investigation. So we can't listen to everything that is said. So the first thing that a monitor or someone who's listening has to know is, one, about the investigation. So they have to read that affidavit, the application for the wiretap. They have to read that thoroughly and be briefed on the investigation so that they know the relevant persons, the relevant evidence that we're looking for, kind of the history of the investigation, so they have some context when they're listening to these calls going on. And then they have training on how to actually do that minimization, how to actually stop the recording so that we can't hear that information, we can't record that information that we don't believe is relevant or authorized under the order. So they receive, again, training about the investigation and then how to actually operate the software.
And they're required to minimize it, right? If it's not relevant to the investigation, it's not a
That is
choice.
correct, yes.
Okay. And are you limited in time to decide whether the conversation is relevant or not?
We are, again, everything is geared towards not intercepting communications that we shouldn't. So for parties that we know never talk about anything relevant, then that period of time that we listen may be less. And then we immediately minimize because we know historically they never talk about anything that's relevant to the investigation. For parties that do communicate about the investigation, then that period of time may be a little longer. The amount of time that we stay minimized or the amount of time that we come off of that before we come back and spot check, or we will come back and see if the topic of the conversation has changed. Are they now talking about something that's relevant? Again, that varies a little bit based on the monitor's knowledge of the case, history of communication between them. But yes, we do have some guidelines for the amount of time that we can listen and how long before we can go back.
Okay. How can we as listeners of the call tell if an officer is doing that?
You'll hear an audible tone during the call. It's an abrupt audible tone.
And is the portion of the call that is minimized recorded then?
It is not recorded.
All right. When listening, do you have to be on the lookout for suspects who may try to mask the meaning of what they're talking about just in case law enforcement is listening?
Yes,
Is that common for people to do?
it is, yes.
All right. And were Catherine McBanois and Charlie Adelson's phones tapped in this case?
They were, yes.
All right. Who supervises these wire calls?
I was the wire room supervisor, the person responsible for kind of the technical side of it. And then from the legal side, there is a state attorney assigned that is conducts the training, keeps up with the investigation, and ultimately a judge who authorized it.
And who keeps or maintains the recordings of the calls?
During the investigation or during the course of the wiretap, we have a partnership with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They're the first point that receives that and sends it on to us. They maintain those originally, and then at the completion of it, those tapes are transferred to us in our custody and maintained securely.
Okay. All right. So the bump in this case, was that at 1:47 p.m. on April 19th, 2016. When I say the bump, I mean when Donna Adelson was approached by the undercover officer and handed the article about Dan Markel's murder?
Yes.
All right, so looking at 1:47 p.m. on April 19th, 2016, who was Donna Adelson's first call after the bump? Can you tell us that from the call detail records?
I can, yes. So we see here her records from that date. The red line indicates the time of the bump or the time of the contact. And we see that her first call at 2:09 p.m. is outgoing to Charlie Adelson.
We have seen and heard about emails in the course of the trial which detail Donna Adelson's strong interest in the divorce of Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel. Is there phone communication in the iCloud between Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson that shows Charlie Adelson's interest in the divorce?
Yes.
Okay. Can you show us that first message, looking at maybe October of 2013? Was there a message in mid-October about that? All right, what does this say?
So this is from Donna Adelson to Charlie Adelson. It says, horrible evening for your sister and for us. Dad finally had to walk outside to lower his blood pressure. Just awful. I can't even explain.
She says she's on the way back to Wendy's house.
Yes.
Okay, can we go to the next slide? Now on the slide before, did it say, I bet let's talk this week by Charlie Adelson after he heard that?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at the next slide, what happened on October 30th of 2013?
There is, again, a message from Donna Adelson indicating she just got a text from Wendy mentioning that she's moving ahead with the purchase of a home.
Okay. And what does Charlie Adelson respond to that? Can you read those to us?
He indicates, she never told me. Why is she doing this? She never mentions it to me on the phone. I guess it's because it's stupid. Did Danny give her permission to move? Schools.
Okay, and what does he say after that?
He says he will hold that over her and use it as leverage, especially after she puts money down. She is really stupid. Give them their asking price, question marks.
And what about after that?
He says, I can try again, but I only talk to her about 1 time a week and leave about 7 messages. And then he
Okay.
indicates this would be October 31st, and the times here on these messages are still in coordinated universal time. So in October, we're 4 hours behind, but that should be about 1 a.m. But he says, spoke to Wendy. I think I made some headway. Hope you're having an awesome time in Israel. Have a good night.
Okay, now the times that we saw earlier in your presentation, those have all already been converted to the actual time that was sent, right?
That's correct. Everything up
Okay.
to this point has been converted to our local time. And I do point out that communications with Donna here that we've just been talking about, those, if you notice the time in the bottom of the messages still say UTC plus 0, which means there's been no offset or subtracting of time to get to our local time zone.
So in those messages, he seems to be thinking that her buying a house is not a good idea. Danny will hold it over her head, use it as leverage, and he's trying to talk her out of it.
Correct.
All right, and then what's the next message to his mom? Wait, I'm sorry, did you read the last one?
I did. Spoke to Wendy. I think I made some headway. Hope you're having an awesome time in Israel. Have a good night.
Okay, and how does his mom respond? Okay, let me go to,
Just indicates that the Adelsons appear to be in Israel at the time and look forward to speaking with him soon.
okay, Danny sent them some pictures of the kids in Halloween costumes, it says.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to the next one.
So Charlie states, spoke to Wendy for 20 minutes last night. She texted me today that she pulled the plug on the house.
Okay, with some smiley faces.
Yes.
And how does Donna Adelson respond?
Wow, Charlie, thank you again. How did you accomplish that? You're a miracle worker. Tell us.
Okay, lots of exclamation points used there.
Yes.
And this is on Halloween of 2013, on October 31st of 2013, and then the day after.
Yes.
Okay, and then the conversations about her buying the house and Charlie Adelson against it, that was all the day before Halloween of 2013.
Yes.
Could buying a house in an area be unfavorable for like a motion for relocation?
I believe so, yes.
All right. What about in February of 2014?
I believe there's more here in this exchange from November 1st. This will be the continuation of the October 30th to the 31st to the 1st.
Okay.
But he indicates, in response to the question of how did you accomplish it, he responds with a series of text about how that went.
So Danny would have used it against Wendy as leverage. She needs to get permission from him. He has several other reasons why it would have been the dumbest mistake of her life, the second dumbest mistake of her life.
Yes.
Okay, and what's next?
It says it took about 15 minutes of talking to her. I basically told her owning a house is like getting married, renting is like dating. Why the F would you want to get married again?
Okay. And what's next in February of 2014? Was there some more messages from the mom?
Yes, so February 15th of 2014, so been in the evening hours or afternoon hours. Donna Adelson indicates that Wendy is stressed out.
Okay. Does she say that Wendy will have to go through another depo? Could that be short for deposition?
Yes,
Is that where the other side's attorney gets to ask you a bunch of questions?
it is, yes.
That's outrageous. They're talking about repetitive motions being filed, and the $500,000 account is the same 50,000 he tried to get his hands on last time, but it's in Wendy's name.
Correct.
Okay, and what does Charlie Adelson say to that?
Crazy.
And what does Donna Adelson say after that? Total waste of the court's time. Yesterday, he sent Wendy a text that said he saw her leaving the school at 2:07. He's stalking her.
Yes.
Okay, and what does Donna Adelson say after that? That Wendy wants to file a protective order, is that what that said?
Yes.
But that's very hard to do unless there's a previous history of threats or abuse. But she wants to let the judge know he's stalking her.
Yes.
Okay, what's next? And Charlie Adelson says, I agree.
Correct.
All right, what does Donna Adelson say after that?
Anyway, it looks like mid-March or mid-April before anything will be resolved regarding him paying her through the court system.
Okay, and then does Donna Adelson go on to complain about the judge on the case giving him too much time to pay?
Yes.
Okay, and what's next? Okay, is that more complaints about the judge in the divorce case?
Yes.
Okay, what's next? Charlie Adelson, does he say how much per hour the divorce attorney costs and that she needs to give a refund or complain to the bar?
Yes.
All right, and what's after that? Does he ask whether Wendy's mad at her attorney yet?
He does, yes.
Okay, what's next? What does Donna Adelson say here?
In response, she says yes, but don't get, I assume that to be her, worked up about it. She's too stressed about it. Let's just keep conversation with her light and not add to what she's dealing with. Let her just get through Monday with positive family support. Nothing stressful. Trust me on this.
Okay, so Wendy's so stressed out, she doesn't want Charlie Adelson adding any more stress to her.
Correct.
All right. What about after that on February 17th? So does Donna Adelson indicate there that she's just leaving the courthouse?
Yes.
Okay. And what does Charlie Adelson say?
Says at work and then ask, how did it go?
And what does Donna Adelson say to that?
Okay, we'll talk later.
Okay. Charlie Adelson asks what happened.
Yes.
Does Donna Adelson then go into some detail about what happened in court, what Wendy wants the parenting coordinator to do, and that Wendy wants the parenting coordinator questioned because she hates Danny, and we'll ask the court to have.
Are you objecting?
Yes,
What is your objection?
read the whole thing or not all of it.
Please read the whole thing, the rule of completeness.
The judge was really pissed at him for not paying Wendy, but she will allow them to depot her with very strict limitations on the questions. Then Wendy wants the parenting coordinator questioned because she hates Danny and will ask the court to have him court-appointed psychological testing, exclamation points.
Okay, and what's next?
Charlie Adelson states, this is February 17th, her attorney is going to run up a very large bill for Danny.
All right, and Donna Adelson says, yup.
Yep.
All right, what about 2 days later on February 19th?
Another text from Donna Adelson. If you speak to Wendy today, tread lightly. Don't ask questions about the depot, her lawyer, etc. Tough day and she's really stressed out. The asshole showed up at soccer yesterday, and when she tried to leave with the boys, he said, no, stay here and play with Abba. She to the boys that Abba had to leave, and he said, no, I don't. Of course, she woke up to another email from him telling her that she is lying to the boys about their father's whereabouts and that this will be brought before the court. Such a fucker. It was Wendy's day. He is allowed to attend the children's activities, but that's where it ends.
So Donna Adelson looks like she was mad that he didn't just attend the activities. Dan Markel engaged with the kids, gave them a hug, said he wanted to play with them.
Yes.
All right? Was there a text message exchange in March of 2014 where Donna Adelson asked Charlie Adelson to erase a text that she sent?
Yes.
Okay, can you show us that? Can you read it to us?
Two texts here. The first says 37 miles to Gainesville. And the next is, I can't talk now, but I'll text you before we stop in Gainesville where I can go to the bathroom and have a moment of privacy. Then I'll call. Please pick up because I will have very limited, quote, alone time today. Erase this text after you read it.
Okay, so she wants to go to a bathroom to talk to Charlie Adelson on the phone in private once she gets in Gainesville here,
Yes,
but wants him to erase that text on his phone.
it's what it indicates, yes.
Okay. Then a few minutes later, what does she say?
We'll stop in about 5 minutes and I can speak to you privately about Dad's birthday gift when I'm out of the car. I have some good ideas.
Okay. So in this text, she's saying that the text she sent 30 minutes before is about Dad's birthday gift,
It would seem so, yes.
or that the call she wanted to make was about Dad's birthday gift, rather.
Yes.
Does she ask him to erase this text message, though?
No.
And that's the message where she's talking about what the secret call is supposed to be about, right?
Yes.
If the defendant's dad, Harvey Adelson's birthday isn't until July, it would appear that they were planning a birthday present for him here on this phone call in a Gainesville bathroom about 4 months in advance, right?
Yes.
All right, what does Charlie Adelson say when his mom sends him that?
He replies, great.
Okay, and what's next?
Charlie responds, if you don't pick up, I'll call you back in 30 seconds.
Okay, and what's next?
Don't call yet. I need 5 minutes till we get to Panera Bread.
All right, was there a message in May of 2014 where Donna Adelson references having a tough conversation with Wendy?
Yes, and I'm sorry, there's an additional response here after these text messages where Charlie Adelson texts, you guys back yet?
Okay, and that's it. I'm sorry, can you go back?
I can
That-
try.
That would appear to be about,
Yes, does not like going backwards.
okay. Does it appear that the you guys back yet message was about 6 hours after the I'll call you when I get to the bathroom?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Could that be consistent with arriving back in Miami from stopping in the Gainesville area?
Could be, yes.
All right, so this message references a tough conversation with Wendy and a horrible morning with Danny
Yes,
and a tough conversation with her.
yes.
All right, looking at June 7th of 2014, what does Donna Adelson say to Charlie Adelson that day?
Just waiting for Gary to come, should be here any minute. Hope you have a good evening. Would you like the apartment the weekend of June 19th to the 22nd? I think we're going to Tally. I miss the boys too much to wait till Dad's birthday week to see them. Besides, we want you to spend some time here. We love you. Heart, Mom and Dad.
Okay. Now, June 7th, this would be the day after, would this be the day after Garcia and Rivera arrived back in Miami with an unsuccessful trip for them to Tallahassee where they did not accomplish the murder of Dan Markel?
Yes,
So this would have been the day after they got back in Miami from Tallahassee.
yes.
Okay? And what's next?
He responds, okay, have fun, still working on Dad's B-Day present. To which Donna Adelson says, I know it's a tough B-Day, being 70 and all, but I know you'll come through. And then there's a thumbs up, kissy face, Mom.
Okay? And those messages are on the following day on June 8th, 2014?
They're actually June 7th if you do the time correction.
I apologize. So still on June 7th, still the day after Garcia and Rivera arrived back in Miami
That's correct.
after they were not able to kill Dan Markel.
That's correct.
Just a second. No further questions.
Good morning, members of the jury. We are going to continue with the examination of Sergeant Corbitt. Last night when we left off, the state finished its direct examination. The defense is now going to have its opportunity to cross-examine him. When the defense is ready, you may examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Corbitt, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Now, you testified yesterday about phone records.
I did, yes, sir.
Okay. Phone records are only kept for a certain amount of time, right?
That's correct.
So you subpoenaed these records back in the 2014, 15, 16 timeframe, right?
Yes, most of the records would have been obtained primarily in the 2014, 2015. Those additional records obtained just prior to the intercept.
In the PowerPoint presentation that you showed yesterday, there was no new data in there since the arrests of Sigfredo Garcia, Luis Rivera, and Katie Magbanowa back in 2016, correct?
In the presentation, we have no new data.
Let me ask it differently. The presentation may have changed,
Correct.
but you didn't receive any new data since that point in time.
That's correct.
So everything in that presentation you had back in 2016.
Yes, we should have.
And you're aware that Mr. Adelson wasn't arrested until 2022, right?
Yes.
So it's fair to say that whatever is in your presentation, someone didn't think it was enough to arrest Mr. Adelson, correct?
Objection to speculation and relevance.
Relevant.
I'll move on. When you're doing your analysis, you are just plopping data in and looking for patterns, right?
That's one of the things I do, yes.
Okay. It's hard, believe me.
I know.
Okay. And let me say this: the amount of work was tremendous in putting this investigation together. Correct?
It was, yes.
The amount of work in 2014 and 2015 in going through bus videos and ATM videos and SunPass records and phone records must have been thousands and thousands of man hours, right?
Yes,
And ultimately you got the two shooters, correct?
we did.
As well as Katie Magbanowa, right?
Yes.
And those records led you right to them, but it was a lot of work and amazing work, right?
It was a thorough and complete investigation, yes.
Amongst a lot of agencies, right?
Yes.
Now, when Charlie Adelson was arrested in 2022, the phone companies no longer had records for 2013 or 2014, right?
It would depend on which company. Some would, yes.
But AT&T didn't, correct?
AT&T may have, yes.
Well, if I told you they didn't, would you believe me?
Yes.
Okay. And if you don't have the phone records, you also don't have cell site data, right?
That's correct.
And so if you don't have the phone records and you don't have the cell site data, you're limited to the phone records that you have, right?
Correct.
And your records began in May of 2014, right? Your phone records.
Yes.
So if we wanted to see the patterns of these calls at time periods before May of 2014, we are not able to do so, correct?
That's correct.
Now,
One moment. Whoever's phone is going off.
Turn it off or leave the courtroom. Please continue.
thank you, Your Honor. Now, I think you said on direct that when you look at the call detail records, there's sometimes duplication.
There is, yes.
So sometimes one call will look like three calls.
Yes.
And cell site data, you talked about it a little bit on direct. Cell site data isn't for every single call, right?
No, we do not have cell site data for every call. If the call does not reach the handset, then we would see a record of that attempt, but there may not be cell site data associated with that particular event.
And with text messages, sometimes you can get cell site data and sometimes you can't, right?
It's largely dependent upon the carrier. Certain carriers do provide cell site location for text messages and others do not. For instance, Verizon.
What about AT&T?
AT&T does provide location information with text messages.
But in your call detail records, aren't there instances where there are text messages and there's no cell site data associated with those text messages?
So again, there may be attempted messages that do not reach the handset where there may not be location. And then we kind of talk about text messages as a singular thing, but really we have messages that are completed through the carrier that go through the carrier's network, and then we have things such as iMessage, which from Apple devices, iOS devices, that don't go through the normal carrier network, and so we don't see records at all for those in the call detail records that the carrier provides. So there are a lot of messages that we see for which there is no associated location information or events in the carrier records.
Okay, and it's scary that I'm doing this with you with my technological inefficiencies, but let's talk about iMessages a little bit. So iMessages are when an iPhone user is speaking to an iPhone user through text messages, correct?
Yes.
So if Charlie Adelson and his parents are messaging each other, it will often go through iMessages, right?
That's correct.
And associated with that, you wouldn't see cell site data, correct?
That's correct.
Now, SunPass records, you got them in 2014, right? In 2015.
I was not the one who received those directly, so I don't know exactly when they were obtained.
Okay. But you testified to some SunPass records yesterday, right?
I don't believe that we did.
Okay. Are you aware that in 2022 you can't get SunPass records back in 2014?
I was not.
Okay. Let's talk about frequency reports. And you mentioned this a bit yesterday, but I want to make sure it's clear. You said that one thing that you look at as an investigator is frequency reports, right? Meaning the amount of times that people are calling each other.
Yes.
And you said that you're looking at that to see if there are co-conspirators. I think that's one of the words you used, right?
And that is one of the things we're looking for, yes.
Okay. But frequency reports can also be seen between wife and husband, girlfriend and boyfriend, mother and son, and daughter and father, right?
Correct.
So the fact that a mother and a son and a girlfriend and a boyfriend call each other a lot doesn't necessarily make them co-conspirators. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Okay. Depends on your perspective, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, these calls and call logs and frequency reports, they don't tell you what people are actually saying, right?
The records that I have from the carriers, no. We have no content with that.
Okay. You're just seeing the calls.
Yes.
And you're just seeing or looking for some patterns.
Yes.
But sometimes those patterns can bring about false positives or false assumptions, right?
Well, the patterns are what they are. The communications happened. They're there in the records. Their relevance or meaning is, could be varied.
And their relevance or meaning sometimes determined by guesswork, right?
I wouldn't say guesswork.
Assumptions.
I think the call patterns are looked at in conjunction with other information, other evidence, other things that are going on at the time, and the totality of that would lend whatever relevance to those calling patterns.
Fair enough. So let's look at the totality of these calls, okay? So let's start with July 1. And from July 1, you can tell from text messages that there was an incident between Sigfredo Garcia and Charlie Adelson, right?
Yes.
And so what I'm going to be talking to you about today is not only your report and your call records, but in trying to find out the patterns, you looked at Mr. Adelson's and other people's text messages, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you can see from those text messages that this confrontation between Sigfredo Garcia and Mr. Adelson caused a lot of stress. You can see that, right, in the text messages.
Yes.
For instance, you can see in the text messages that for the only time in your investigation, there's text messages from Charlie Adelson's dad to Charlie Adelson after midnight.
I don't know that that's the only time, but it could be.
Well, you would agree that at 12:38 in the morning, his dad texts Charlie and says, "Are you home?" And Charlie says, "Yes, home safe," and the dad has a thumbs up. Do you agree with that? When you went through your investigation, you saw that, correct?
Well, I certainly don't remember every one of the tens of thousands of messages, but I can look it up real quick and confirm that.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You might.
And it goes to the next page.
And are these times adjusted?
They are adjusted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's either 12:38 or 8 o'clock in the evening.
It's 12:38.
Okay. I can confirm that as well.
It's on the second.
Okay.
Judge, while he's looking that up, could we have a brief sidebar?
You may approach. You may continue with your examination.
Did that refresh your recollection?
I'm not finding those messages at that time. So there is a message from Harvey Adelson to Charlie, or from Charlie to Harvey saying, trying to return your call. That's at 8:10 in the evening on the 2nd. We're talking July 2nd.
We're talking July 2nd at 12:38 in the morning. And if you want to look on your thing at 8:38 in the evening, that's fine as well.
It's not there either, I believe. Because I have not adjusted this.
Are you sure that you have all the text messages?
This is one of the extractions. I'm not sure where that came from. I don't recognize that format that you have.
I'll move
But
on, but are you sure that when you did this report, it included every text message received on Charlie Adelson's iCloud?
I believe that it does, yes.
But you don't have those, right?
I do not see those in what I'm looking at right here in the timeline.
I'll move on. You talked about this June 2nd, 2014 rental car pickup. Remember
Yes.
that? And during your testimony, you put Miss Magbanowa at the rental car pickup, correct?
Consistent with that, yes.
If Miss Magbanowa testified yesterday that she knew nothing about the first trip and had nothing to do with renting the rental car, that would be a lie, right?
Objection to speculation and relevance.
Overruled as to relevance.
Sustained as to speculation. You may rephrase if you're capable.
If she testified yesterday that she had nothing to do with being near the rental car and knowing about the first trip, that would not be consistent with your data, correct?
I don't know her testimony, but it would not be consistent with the location of the handset.
Now, Charlie Adelson's handset wasn't located anywhere near the rental car on that day, correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, looking at his text messages, you could tell that he was working as late as 9:05 that evening, correct?
Again, I don't recall the content of every message, but there was nothing that I recall associating him with the rental of the vehicle.
May I approach Your Honor, try to refresh witness's recollection?
You may.
Does this refresh your recollection that he was leaving the office at 9:05 p.m. that evening?
There's nothing about leaving the office. There's a request to put something in a safe, thanks again, but I don't see anything that says I'm leaving.
What's the something in a safe?
I left a container of bone on your desk. It's in a blue box that says Zimmer on it. It's about 500 in bone.
Okay. Do you know what Charlie Adelson does for a living?
I do.
What does he do? What does he do for a living?
He is a periodontist.
And does he work with bones?
He does.
Okay. And do you know that he works with a dentist called Bloom?
I'm not familiar with that name.
And that dentist's office is in northern Fort Lauderdale?
Not familiar with that.
Okay. And so when you looked at that day to see where he was located, this text message meant nothing to you, right?
It just indicates that something was left in an office, and there's not a time with that. I just left something in your office. I'm leaving now. There's nothing in that exchange that gives me an idea of where he was at that particular time. And so, no, I did not consider that in that. We look at the cell site locations primarily. But again, I have nothing that associated Mr. Adelson with the rental of that vehicle.
You can agree that when that message is sent, it's at 9:05 p.m., correct?
Can you report, yes, sir?
Okay. You can agree that on your chart, remember you did that chart with all the red and blue arrows?
Yes, sir.
You can agree on your chart, his first phone call is to Catherine Magbanua at 8:57 p.m.
Again, not having memorized every call,
It's the first page of your chart.
the first call that evening, yes, was at 8:57 p.m.
If you take my word that he was leaving the office at around 9 o'clock, would that indicate that that call was made from the car?
If he was leaving the office, then it could have been made from the car, yes.
Okay. And there are no text messages before that call between him and Miss Magbanua, correct? The last text message is at 6:41 that evening, correct?
Again, I can look at that. I will take your word. I do not recall any text messages that evening relevant to the rental of the vehicle.
The next page of this exhibit has a call back from Catherine Magbanua. Do you see that?
At 9:17 p.m.?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
The first call is only a minute long, right?
Correct.
And she calls him back. There's nothing odd for a girlfriend to call a boyfriend back on the phone, right?
Correct.
The next page has a text message at 9:31 from Wendy Adelson to Harvey Adelson. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Harvey Adelson's Wendy Adelson's dad, right?
Correct.
Do you have any idea what that text message said?
I don't know that we looked at that. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't recall what the text message was. Nothing of relevance to that rental of the vehicle.
But relevant enough to put it on this chart.
It's just a record of the communications. So the communication occurred, so it's included as in that series of communications.
Now, 2022, I have no access to Miss Adelson's text back then, right?
We have the forensic extraction of her handset, which could contain that text message.
What if I told you it doesn't?
Then it doesn't.
Okay. So we have no idea what that text says. It could say anything.
I'm not familiar with what the content of that text message is, no.
The next call you have is a call from Charlie Adelson at 9:44 to the Adelson residence. He calls his parents, right?
That's correct.
And again, using my time frame, he still could be in the car, right?
He could be.
By the way, when you went through the patterns, did you notice that he makes a lot of calls to his girlfriend and his parents in the morning and in the late evening?
He makes a lot of calls at all times. But yes,
Did you notice more calls in the morning when he's driving to work, in the evening when he's driving home from work, than in the middle of the day?
that would be correct, yes.
Okay. And Are you aware that Charlie Adelson was working at the Adelson Institute the next day?
I was not.
Are you aware that he had a big surgery the next day at the Adelson Institute?
I was not.
Okay. We're going to get back to the residence calls, but let's just put a thumbtack on that for right now. By the way, when he calls the residence on this call, he's calling from his own cell phone, right?
That's correct.
He's not calling from a friend's phone.
Correct.
He's not calling from a payphone.
Correct.
He's not calling from a landline.
Correct.
The next call you have is a call between Catherine Magbanua and Sigfredo Garcia, correct?
Yes.
And same with the next one we'll skip over. It's between the killers, correct? Garcia and Magbanua.
Correct.
Now, Harvey Adelson calls Charlie Adelson at 10:16, right?
That's correct.
And this is cell phone to cell phone.
Correct.
And that call happens at 10:16 and it lasts for a little about 5 minutes, right?
Correct. 5 minutes and 18 seconds.
And immediately thereafter, Charlie Adelson calls his dad back. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Are you aware that at the time that these calls happened, the Adelsons, you have them living...
Objection to counsel testifying.
I'll let you finish the question first, but go ahead. Finish your question.
Are you aware, where did you think the Adelsons were living, Donna and Harvey Adelson, at the time of these phone calls?
I don't believe they were living at the Icon at that point. I believe they were living further north.
Would it surprise you that they were living further south part-time at a place called the Continuum?
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, did you look at the cell phone, the text messages where they're talking about sharing a place at the Continuum?
I do not recall those.
Do you know whether the Continuum has bad cell phone reception?
I'm not familiar with that at all.
Would these two calls that you have as two different arrows indicate that the call could have gotten cut off and Charlie's calling his dad back?
The call could have ended for any number of reasons, and there's nothing in the records that would tell me it was cut off from a service reason versus just the conclusion of the call.
But the calls are immediately after one another, correct?
Not immediately. They are 6 minutes apart.
With no calls in between, right?
No calls between any of the involved parties. So there could be, if we were to expand and look at all of Charlie's calls, there could be calls to other persons, or Harvey Adelson could have calls to other persons. This summary is limited to just calls between our subjects, and there are no additional calls between our subjects in that time frame.
Fair enough. Skipping 2 away. You then have a call at 10:41 between Katie and Charlie.
That's correct.
And did you look to see whether there were any text messages in between this call?
I do not recall any text messages that evening in Mr. Adelson's return. There was a picture sent that were not retained, and that was the only communication that I saw in the iCloud return.
And the last 3 sheets have nothing to do with any calls or text messages involving any of the Adelsons, correct?
Correct.
Now, I want to talk to you about this sheet right here, which is this landline sheet. You recall this?
Yes.
And you talked about how it was very significant to you that there were so few contacts between Charlie Adelson or anyone, Charlie Adelson's phone and his parents' house phone, their landline. Remember testifying to that yesterday?
I do.
And remember testifying that this was an indication for you when people use landlines that they might be wanting to disguise things. Do you recall saying that?
That was a question that I was asked, if there was a perception that cell phones were less secure than landlines. I do believe that perception exists. That was my answer to the question.
And this point was important enough to you that you made a whole slide on it.
I was asked to review the frequency of communications from the cell phones compared to the landline and how frequently the landline was contacted versus their cell phones.
On all of the calls to the Adelson's landline, are they all from Charlie Adelson's cell phone?
The ones, yes, we were looking at Charlie Adelson's cell phone. That chart is based exclusively from his cell phone. So we're looking at the cell phone contacts between his cell phone, their cell phones, his cell phone, and their residence is what we're looking at. If he were to call from the office or call from other places, that would not be included.
Is that an indication that he wasn't trying to disguise anything?
I don't know if he's trying to disguise anything or not. Again, I was asked to look at the frequency of communications between the two numbers.
By the way, this landline, did you look at whether the phone number has ever changed since 1978?
I have not.
Let's move on to June 5th and the surveillance of Professor Markel's home and the return travel to Miami. You went through Charlie's text messages on the 5th during this time period, right?
I have reviewed them at some point, yes.
And you reviewed them to see if there was anything out of the normal or routine, correct?
Looking for any information that was related to this travel, the incident, anything like that.
When you reviewed them, did you see anything in this time period in the text messages that looked off?
Again, with hundreds of thousands of messages, I certainly did not attempt to memorize them all. I can look at that day and see. I don't recall anything that appeared off or appeared, that stood out to me.
You were asked about a birthday present. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Was there anything in the text messages discussing a caterer?
There was, yes.
Was there anything in the text messages discussing how Charlie Adelson was working on getting a caterer for the birthday party?
Yes.
Do you recall if those text messages were on June 5th, 2014?
I don't recall the exact date. Again, I can look that up, but...
Let me try to help you.
Okay.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Yes.
On June 5th, do you recall that Charlie Adelson was working late?
I do not.
Do you recall that his parents were talking about going to yoga?
I do not.
Now, I want to move to June 6th and the location of the rental car. Now, the first thing you had behind this slide was a text message between Wendy Adelson and Professor Markel. Do you see that? And let me.
And I'm sorry, which...
Okay, let me show you so you can catch up.
Right there. Yes.
And this is a text message where Wendy Adelson, and it's in evidence, Your Honor, where Wendy Adelson asks Professor Markel whether he's in Tallahassee, July 14 to 18. I just want to know if I can have the kiddos on the 16th. Thanks. And she says, yes, you can. You see that?
Mr. Markel says yes, you can.
Sorry,
Yes.
Professor Markel says, yes, you can.
Yes.
See that? Are you aware that that was that there was a birthday party on the 5th in South Beach for Harvey's 70th birthday?
Yes.
And are you aware that the next slide you have Miss Adelson down in South Beach. Are you aware that she attended that birthday party on the 5th and stayed in town on the 6th?
Yes.
Now, in your experience, is it normal for co-parents to text each other about visitation of kids?
Sure.
By the way, she's asking whether she can have the kids on the 16th, right?
She's asking for the date range of the 14th through the 18th. And yes, if I can have the kids on the 16th.
You're aware that Professor Markel's murder happened on the 18th, right?
I am, yes.
Didn't happen on the 16th, right?
That's correct.
And you're aware that Professor Markel had custody of the kids on the 18th, the day that he was murdered, right?
That's correct.
By the way, just moving back very quickly, and I don't know where your slide is on this, but regarding July 2nd, after the incident,
Yes, sir.
can you pull that slide up where you have a text message between Charlie Adelson and Katie, a series of text messages?
Yes, sir. That will be slide 28.
And one of the, can we put slide 28 on the screen? Is that possible? Oh, I'll do it from here. Hold on.
Actually, the witness can.
Can you put it on the screen? Did you make a mistake here by accident, Sergeant Corbitt?
It's possible these were cut and pasted from the actual Celebrate report.
Isn't it true that Charlie Adelson said this really sucks?
It's possible.
Can you check?
I can.
May I approach your honor?
All right.
You are correct.
Can we put that back? Can we put the other one back on the screen now?
Sure.
And isn't it true that Ms. Magbanua said these two statements, not Charlie Adelson?
Let me double check that.
May I approach your honor?
You're right off. Yes. All right. That's correct.
Okay. Going back to June 6th, you showed Charlie Adelson staying at Miss Magbanua's residence that evening, correct? But you showed him there at 12:30 in the morning and 11:46 in the morning, right?
On the 6th.
On the 6th.
Yes, sir. The events that we looked at, he had an event at 12:30 a.m. and then the next event at 11:46 a.m.
And that would be consistent with him leaving his parents' party, his dad's party, and staying in South Beach at his girlfriend's house?
It could be, yes.
And looking at the text messages, could you tell that the family was going to get back together in South Beach the next day for dinner?
There was conversation to that, yes.
Now, if we could move to July 14th. Your analysis through the text messages and through the cell site data shows that Charlie Adelson had dinner or met up. I don't think it says dinner. Oh, it actually does. Had dinner with Katie Magbanua on the evening of the 14th, correct?
That's correct.
That would be inconsistent with if there's testimony in this courtroom by Ms. Magbanua saying that she did not have dinner with him that evening, that would be inconsistent with your data, correct?
What I have is a text message indicating that they could eat closer to her residence, and there is location information that Mr. Adelson traveled to that area, traveled away from that area. I don't know exactly where Midtown is, where the request to eat was, and then traveled back to her residence. What they did, I do not know.
Okay. Now, what you do have, and this is important, so I want you to go to this page of your exhibit. You have him leaving, Charlie Adelson leaving the area around 12:42 a.m., correct?
He has events consistent with the area of her residence at 12:42, and then the next event at 1:02 has traveled some distance. So, yeah, somewhere after 12:42, he would depart that area.
Okay. And you have a phone call from Sigfredo Garcia, a call from Katie to Sigfredo Garcia at 12:48.
That's correct.
So that would be consistent that that phone call was made after Charlie Adelson left the residence, correct?
Correct.
If you're looking at patterns, it might indicate to you that Katie wanted to make a call to Sigfredo without Charlie being there, right?
It could be.
By the way, you have no phone calls whatsoever between Charlie and Sigfredo Garcia or vice versa.
That's correct.
And you have no indication anywhere in this chart, through cell phone data or otherwise, that Katie ever called Sigfredo when Charlie was with her.
I certainly have not analyzed months of location data to see if they could possibly be together when a phone call was made to Mr. Garcia.
Well, let me ask you this question. There's a lot of pages in your exhibit with a lot of dots.
Yes.
On any of those dots, can you tell, none of those dots show that Charlie Adelson was with Katie Magbanua when she ever called Sigfredo Garcia, correct?
That's correct.
July 15, 2014, the Prius rental. What color was the Prius?
Green.
It wasn't silver, right?
The Prius was not silver. It's a mint metallic green.
And is Prius a Toyota or a Nissan?
It is a Toyota.
Now, you did the arrow sheet again for calls on the 15th, right?
Yes.
This time you did it a little bit differently, right?
Yes.
What was different this time versus the way you did it previously?
It was just contacts between persons as opposed to breaking down each individual call.
And these contacts between persons, some of them might have been callbacks or misconnections or voicemails, correct?
That's correct.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to say something in regard to the bailiff.
We'll take a brief recess.
Members of the jury.
Please follow the bailiff. Be seated. Mr. Rauschbaum, you may continue with your examination.
Okay, so I think where we left off, I might go back a little bit. Where we left off, we were talking about your slides from July 15th and how they were different than the previous slides. Can you just repeat for the jury how they're different?
Yes. The first time we looked at the calls, shorter time frame, and we looked at each individual event. For this, they were summarized, all the calls are there, they were summarized in the pictures with arrows as just the totality of contacts between certain people. So the total number of contacts and the duration of those contacts.
And those could include voicemails and missed calls, correct?
That's correct.
Now, are you aware that on the 15th, there's some communications between Charlie Adelson and the Adelson residents, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that from the text messages that there were some billing issues that Charlie was having with his mom that day? Do you recall that?
No.
Okay. Are you aware that his mom was trying to figure out about a bill with a company and what she should do with it?
Objection to hearsay.
Sustained. You may ask the question in a different way.
I'll move on from it. Are you aware that on that day, Mr. Adelson purchased a vehicle?
No.
Are you aware anything in the text messages about partnering in a limo?
I know that there's conversation at various times about limo, but I don't recall specifically from that day.
You don't recall that that was the day when he and others closed on a limo?
No.
Now, you have a slide about a July 15th meeting between Garcia and Magbanawa.
Yes.
During this meeting, you can tell from cell site data that Mr. Adelson's about an hour north, correct?
I believe so.
Now let's talk about your slides on July 17th. The slides on July 17th, you again have no idea what Mr. Adelson is discussing with Donna Adelson, correct?
I don't recall the specifics of any communication that day.
And on the 17th, there's two communications with Miss Adelson, between Charlie and Donna, correct?
That sounds correct.
And then there's a bunch of communications between Katie, Sigfredo, and Luis Rivera, correct? Several
Yes.
slides.
And I believe there's more than two between, that's Wendy. Yes, I believe I see at least three on the 17th, four, if you count the one in early morning, the 18th, between Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson. And then, yes, there are a number of communications between Ms. Magbanawa and Mr. Garcia.
So we're going to get to the one early in the morning on the 18th. There's a communication early in the morning on the 18th between Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanawa. You see that, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether that communication had to do with a fight they had earlier in the day?
I don't.
And the communication with Donna Adelson that morning at 1:02 is a 0-second call, right?
Correct.
Would that be consistent with what I call a butt dial?
It could be a butt dial. It could be an unintentional dial. It's obviously a very, very short duration, was terminated very quickly.
By the way, there's a couple calls that evening between Charlie and Catherine Magbanawa. You see that, right?
Yes, sir.
I know you said that you look primarily at days where events occurred, right?
Yes, sir.
But it makes sense that you would also look at days when events don't occur, right?
But we did, yes.
So was it common on days when events didn't occur that Charlie Adelson would almost always speak to his girlfriend late at night?
They spoke frequently, yes.
And almost every night they spoke, correct?
I would
Before
agree with that,
bedtime, right?
yes.
And that would be on a regular day versus an event day, correct?
Correct.
Let's move on to July 18th. And the first document you have is a calendar entry from Wendy Adelson, and that entry is deleted, correct?
Correct.
Do you know of people who delete their calendar entries after they occur?
I'm sorry?
Let me rephrase. Do you keep a calendar?
I do.
Do you know of people who, when the event occurs, they delete it from their calendar?
Yes.
It's pretty common, right?
I don't know how common it is, but it certainly happens.
And you have a call at 8:09 in the morning from Wendy to Donna, and then a call at 8:09 in the morning from Donna to Wendy.
Yes.
Okay. And then you have, well, let me ask you, were you aware that there was a Best Buy repairman coming to fix a TV that day?
Yes.
And were you aware that the warranty for that TV was in Donna and Harvey Adelson's name?
I was not.
You then have an 8:11 text where Donna is telling Wendy that Best Buy called her, meaning Donna.
Yes.
Would that be consistent with the warranty being in Donna and Harvey's name?
It could be.
You then have a text from Wendy Adelson, which says, "This is so sweet." Do you remember that?
Yes.
Could you tell that it was a picture?
I don't know that it was a picture.
Okay. Do you know what it was?
Just a text that said, "This is so sweet."
And that ominous text, scary text, that was also deleted, right?
It was, yes.
Now, you then have a call between Charlie Adelson and Wendy Adelson at 9:12 that lasts for only 29 seconds. Is that consistent with not reaching the recipient of the call?
Yes.
And then you have another slide with a call at 9:19 where Wendy Adelson calls Charlie Adelson back and they speak for 18 minutes, right?
Correct.
Now, through your investigation, are you aware that Charlie Adelson was working in Jupiter that day?
I do not recall that.
Do you happen to know how far Jupiter is from Charlie Adelson's house?
It's a distance.
Okay. Would it surprise you that it can be a 2-hour drive?
No.
And do you know that when he started work that day in Jupiter?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know about what was
One
taught?
moment. Bailiff, please escort out the person whose phone is ringing. The gallery's conduct during the trial. If there are any more issues with phones, murmuring audibly, or anything else, you are leaving the trial. I hope I am making myself clear. Mr. Rauschbaum, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. That morning through text messages, could you tell that there was an issue between Wendy Adelson and Professor Markel regarding some swimming and the boys?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if Charlie Adelson and Wendy Adelson were talking about that?
I do not.
Do you know if Charlie Adelson and Wendy Adelson were talking about the fight that he had with Katie Magdanowa the day before?
I do not.
And with all of these calls on the 18th, you have no idea what they're discussing on the phones, correct?
Correct. We don't have any recordings of those, so we don't know what was said during those communications.
By the way, there's several back-to-back calls in here between Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanua. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And the calls are pretty short in duration, and then there's a longer one.
Yes.
Are you aware that there's cell site issues on the turnpike going to Jupiter?
I'm not.
And just so everyone's clear, when you did these graphs, in parentheses is the length of time of the call, correct?
That's correct.
So if there's a call for instance, 11 seconds, it's probably not a connection, right? Voice to voice.
It could possibly be, but more likely not. Yes.
Now, you have a call between Catherine Magbanua and Charlie Adelson at 10:07 a.m.
Yes.
Looking at the text messages around that period of time, in the text messages, are there discussions about dinner that night?
I don't recall.
Do you recall discussions about Charlie getting dinner with a friend?
There was a conversation about that, yes.
And do you recall discussions back and forth about whether he would get dinner with the friend or whether he would get dinner with Catherine Magbanua?
I believe so, yes.
And it was a bit of an exchange back and forth, correct?
I remember several messages about dinner and timing, if I recall.
Now, I want to move on to Wendy Adelson's travel on the 18th and cell site locations, okay? And what I'd like to do, well, let's try it just verbally, but I want to do it carefully, okay? If you look at your timeline, the first document you have, and maybe you can pull it up actually, is that ABC Fine Wine and Spirits receipt.
Yes.
Okay, and I want to be particularly looking at times, okay?
Yes.
Times are important in this case, all right? So on that receipt, we see that Wendy Adelson bought the liquor and paid for it at 12:49 p.m. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, if you can go to, I think it's the next page, but let's see. Perfect. You'll see that Wendy Adelson is nowhere near Trescott at 12:30, right?
Well, depending on what you mean by nowhere near.
Let me ask you this. She's here at 12:30, right?
Her handset's communicating with a cell site there, so
And Trescott's all the way down here, and there her handset is communicating with another cell site, correct?
that's correct.
And you certainly would agree you can't see Professor Markel's house from here, correct?
I would not exclude his residence from possibly being serviced by that cell site. We actually see that Mr. Rivera's handset, also AT&T, communicates with that cell site when he was there.
So your testimony is that Wendy Adelson isn't here?
No, I would certainly not say she's at that definitive point. That's the location of the cell site that her handset is communicating with. And as we know, the cell sites have a relative coverage area, so that's not saying that she is specifically at that point.
Do you know how far the house is from ABC Liquor?
The house is very close to ABC Liquor.
Like 2 minutes away, right?
Yes.
So is it fair to say that, let's say it took her 10 minutes to buy the alcohol that she knew what she was getting, and it's 2 minutes away? Well, let me ask you. 12:47 is how many minutes after 12:30?
17.
Now, you recall a call at 12:30, the only call, the first call between Catherine Magbanoa and Sigfredo Garcia? It's an
Yes.
important call in this case.
Yes, sir.
And that call happens at 12:30, correct?
Yes, sir.
12:30 is before Wendy Adelson is pinging on this cell site, right?
That's correct.
And again, you say Wendy Adelson, that cell site could be picked up from over here, right?
It could, yes.
But it could also be picked up by where the cell site is, right?
That's correct.
Do you know if there are other cell sites closer in this area?
There are not between those two, no.
There aren't.
No, sir.
This is the closest cell site to Professor Markel's house?
No, it's not the closest cell site. There are, between the two cell sites that you're referencing there are no other cell sites between those two.
Let me rephrase the question. I wasn't precise. There are closer cell sites to Professor Markel's house than this cell site here, correct?
That's correct.
Now, throughout the afternoon of July 18th, there are very few text messages between Charlie Adelson and anyone else, right?
I don't recall how many there are.
Do you recall that people are texting him and when he's getting back, he's saying, I'm in a lot of surgeries? That he had a lot of surgeries that day?
Again, I don't recall the specifics of each message.
Do you recall, though, that there are several text messages between him and his friend Mike about dinner that night, and there's one text message between him and Katie confirming that he is going to go to dinner with her that night?
I believe that's correct.
By the way, the text messages between Charlie and anyone that day, nothing out of the ordinary, right?
Nothing that I recall, no.
Nothing that you thought were important enough during the day. I'm not talking about the night. Nothing that you thought was important enough to put on your PowerPoint, right?
Correct.
Do you recall there being one phone call with Katie in the afternoon?
Afternoon of the 18th?
The 18th, I believe it was at give or take 1:24 p.m.
I believe that's correct. If you no longer need this, I can bring it down and confirm.
Let me turn this off. And that call occurred after a text message where she said that her phone was dying?
I don't recall that specific message, but
Do you recall her texting him about asking him how work was?
yes,
And do you recall that he didn't get back to her for a while?
correct.
And do you recall that there's text messages indicating that he worked late that evening?
Yes, he indicates that he was just finishing work around 8:20, 8:23.
Now, at some point, he gets a text message from his mother, correct?
Yes,
And that is after Wendy Adelson has called Donna Adelson from the police station?
I believe so, yes.
And do you recall what the text message said?
Call us as soon as possible, ASAP.
And after that, did you see a phone call where he communicated with Donna Adelson? Had a call with Donna Adelson?
There is an outgoing call at 8:29, 7:13. So yes, there are calls between them, yes.
And there's one call that lasts a little bit longer?
Yes, there's a 6-minute and 31-second call. There's a 5-minute and 47-second call.
Okay. And after that call, are there text messages where he's telling people that he doesn't feel good? I think you showed them.
Yes.
And there's a call after that point to Katie. Is that fair to say?
There is, yes.
Okay. Now, you talked about a couple. Katie texts him at 6:01 p.m. before he's spoken to his mom, right? It's on one of your sheets. I'll show you. So that you
Yes, there's a couple of texts before then.
Okay. And those texts are about work, right?
Correct.
Including at 6:01, before he's heard from his mom, he's about to start a big case.
Correct.
He's doing surgery.
I would assume so, yes.
And at 8:23, he texts her back. She asks if he's at work. And he texts her back and he says, just finishing, I'm not really feeling good. Maybe we can just hang out at my house.
Correct.
And that would be consistent that text was after he heard whatever he heard from Donna Adelson, correct?
Correct.
Now, what you see on your map of Katie's whereabouts then is that she's a little bit all over the place, right? Meaning her phone is a little bit all over the place. It's traveling.
Yes.
And it's going to different locations.
I believe that for the period of time we're talking, her handset is consistent with leaving her residence and traveling to Mr. Rivera's residence.
Do you know if her handset went to her friend Yindra's residence, where she was hoping to get a babysitter last minute?
Certainly. So there was calls, communications with Yindra, and her residence is on the way to Mr. Rivera's. So there was certainly an opportunity for her to be able to stop.
And on those calls, or through your investigation, you learned that Catherine Meg Bannerwell was in a pinch because she didn't have a babysitter, right?
I believe that's correct.
And so she was scrambling to find someone who could watch her kids.
Yes.
And she needed a babysitter because she needed to go that evening to Charlie Adelson's residence, right?
I don't know if she needed to go, but that appeared to be the plan.
Well, there wasn't really Rich on. Now, you have a chart where you show Charlie Adelson leaving Jupiter. I know they're estimations, but he's driving south at around 9:19 p.m.
That's correct.
Okay. And Jupiter was where he was working that day?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And you have him arriving at his house at approximately 9:40 p.m., give or take.
Yes, I believe that's the first event with location that would be consistent with his house.
And through your investigation, you know where he lives, right?
Yes.
You know that he lives in an area that is a stone's throw from the turnpike, right?
Correct.
Like, I mean, when I say a stone's throw from the turnpike, you can literally throw a stone and hit the turnpike, right?
Yes.
And you understand that when you're going to Tallahassee from Miami, the most direct route, you like routes, I know that. The most direct route is to take the turnpike, right?
It would be, yes.
Okay. And you know at that point in time, Donna and Harvey Adelson were living in Miami part-time.
Yes.
So I want to take you to these text messages between Donna and Charlie. Do you have them in front of you?
I will in just a second.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So at 8:59 p.m., Donna says outside your house.
Correct.
Now, you don't know from that text whether she's actually at his house or on the turnpike outside his house, right?
From that text message alone, no.
Okay. And no SunPass records were ever taken to show her actually getting off the turnpike to go to his house, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
And I can't get those records today, right?
Again, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Now, that text outside your house is at 8:59 p.m. How many minutes later does Charlie Adelson respond to Donna?
About 20 minutes.
So his text back is 20 minutes later, right?
Yes.
So now you're at, my math is not good, but you're at 9:19 p.m., right?
Correct.
And what does he say in his response?
10 minutes.
And you take that to mean that he's still 10 minutes away, right?
Correct.
Now, by the text messages, you know that Donna and Harvey Adelson arrived in Orlando at around 1:11 a.m., correct?
I believe that's correct.
Did you do that same analysis that you did with Wendy's route as to whether they could have gotten to Orlando at that time had they waited at Charlie's house for 30 minutes and then dropped off money and done whatever else the state says that they did with him?
In looking at their cell site locations very briefly, it is consistent with them traveling at least by his residence and not knowing how long or how lengthy of a stop it would have been with the cell sites and the general locations. I certainly could not exclude them having stopped. If it were 5 minutes, then it doesn't make that drive. Obviously, they did reach Orlando when they did. 5 minutes one way or the other would not. I could not deduce that from the cell site records.
But it's not 5 minutes. It's 20 minutes plus 10 minutes
Correct.
plus whatever amount of time they would have stopped.
Correct.
Your testimony is that if they left Charlie Adelson's house at 9:30, they only stopped for 1 minute. Your testimony is that they could have made it to Orlando by 1:11?
I did not analyze the amount of time, the travel for that. I certainly can. And again, not by communication, but by cell site location. I certainly could.
The cell site location doesn't show them at Charlie's house, right?
No.
By the way, do you remember what the weather was like that day?
I do not.
Let's go to July 19th. Now, you did some analysis regarding the money drop and who was at different locations during the money drop, right?
Yes,
Charlie Adelson was nowhere near that location, right?
that's correct.
In fact, during your investigation, you can see that Charlie Adelson didn't leave his house for 24 hours, almost 24 hours, right?
I believe that's correct.
By the way, during your investigation, you can see text messages where people were trying to go out with Charlie that day, right?
I believe so, yes.
And he was refusing, right?
Correct.
He was telling people that he was taking naps and didn't feel well. Do you remember that?
Yes.
By the way, during your investigation, are you aware that within 3 weeks, Charlie Adelson spent $3,000 of his money buying camera equipment for his house?
I'm not aware of that.
Did you see that in the text messages?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall that in the text messages? Anywhere in the text messages?
I don't.
Okay. Now, you brought up a series of text messages between Charlie and Catherine Magbanua the next day regarding the weather outside.
Correct.
You have no context for those text messages, right? You don't know what those text messages are about, right?
Only by their content.
Now, the government put in a whole host of text messages through you, right?
Yes.
Do you recall text messages between Charlie and his mom when they were leaving Tallahassee
On which day?
on the 21st?
I believe so, yes.
Do you recall what those text messages said?
I do not. Again, I can certainly look at them.
Can you look at text messages on 7/21 at around 12 o'clock p.m.? And then again at 12:18 p.m.?
I'm sorry, on the 21st?
Yes. Would you like me to approach with them? Will that help you?
You can, I'll confirm. Are you referring to the we all do, we just have to be strong?
That's on the at 12:18,
Yes.
and then at 12.
Yes.
And then this one right there.
Yes.
Did Charlie Adelson indicate to his mom in these text messages his feelings about what had happened?
There is a message that says, I feel so bad for them.
Did Donna Adelson respond to Charlie about how the family had to be in response?
She did.
Did she say what Wendy needed?
Her message is that we just have to be strong and supportive. They need family right now. Just got in car now.
Just what?
Got in car now.
Those text messages weren't in your PowerPoint, right?
They were not.
Now, there are a bunch of texts that were included after July 18 between Charlie and Katie showing that they had a nice relationship. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Do you have any idea the context of any of those texts, why Charlie was being nice to Katie?
I only have the content of the messages themselves.
Fair enough. The state also showed you a bunch of texts related to Wendy Adelson's divorce. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And during those texts, you can see that Donna Adelson in particular is upset.
Yes.
At least that's what the messages say.
Correct.
Are most of the messages initiated by Donna Adelson or Charlie Adelson?
I believe most by Donna.
There's a text on March 4th, 2014 in your PowerPoint where Donna says 37 miles to Gainesville. I can't talk now, but I'll text you before we stop in Gainesville where I can go to the bathroom and have a moment of privacy. Then I'll call. Please pick up because I have very limited alone time today. Erase this text after you read it. First of all, did Charlie Adelson erase the text?
Most of his text messages, that's difficult to determine from the iCloud return, whether they've been deleted or not.
This text, you can tell, was not deleted, correct?
I would have to review that real quick.
I'll move on. It's okay. Are you aware that Donna Adelson was with Harvey Adelson on their way to back from Tallahassee?
I would deduce that based on the content of the messages.
Okay. And are you aware that they were throwing a surprise party for Harvey Adelson?
I know they were throwing a party.
Well, have you seen the invitation in your investigation where it's a surprise party?
I have not.
could this text be about the surprise party?
It could.
Objection to stick.
So,
Please wait for the objection to be ruled on, Sergeant.
apologies.
Well, the next text, we don't have to speculate. Donna says, we'll stop in 5 minutes and I can speak to you privately about Dad's birthday gift when I'm out of the car. Who would be in the car with Donna?
Harvey.
And by the way, this is 1 month or so before the text we talked about earlier where Charlie's getting a caterer for paella for the birthday.
I believe so, yes.
And by the way, that text regarding the caterer, that's on June 6th, correct?
I believe so, yes.
In your PowerPoint, you don't have that text, but you have a text on June 7th, the very next day.
Yes.
And Charlie says, have fun still working on Dad's birthday present.
Correct.
That's 1 day after he talked to his mom about the caterer, correct?
Yes.
There's no mention about a murder on this text, right?
That's correct.
There's no mention the day before about a murder, right?
That's correct.
There's mention about a caterer the day before.
There is.
I have 1 moment, Your Honor, to set this up.
Take your time.
So,
And Judge, I'm going to object to showing juries.
Oh. sorry.
We'll shut that down.
So, you've gone through all the call records that you provided in this case, right?
At some point, yes.
Okay. And so you're familiar with patterns of calls on days other than the days that you provided in your PowerPoint, correct?
Yes.
Judge, I move in demonstrative exhibit B at this point in time.
Any objection from the state?
Yes, sir. I think that the witness would need to be able to say that this is accurate compared to the records in the case.
Mr. Rashbaum, please show the exhibit to the witness so that way he can verify the accuracy.
Just May 2nd.
If this was the document provided previously, I have had a very limited amount of time to look at it. There are some things, I've made a few notes. There are some, inconsistencies with it that I could probably talk about some of, but I have not had a chance to review the entire thing, and it would take some time.
Judge, may we go sidebar?
You may. Demonstrative. Any additional issues as to the accuracy of any one graph we'll address separately. Go ahead.
Okay. So you looked at call records for May 2nd, 2014,
Yes.
and this was a non-event day, right?
I don't know.
Not an event that you were told by the state to look at, right?
Correct.
And it's one of the first days of records that we have in this case, right?
Correct.
And these are the subjects that you were looking at for the event days that you looked at with the state, right?
Yes.
And you have a call from Charlie to Katie at 12 in the morning that day, right? 16-minute call.
That's correct.
And you have another call at 12:19 for 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
Correct.
Pretty much directly after each other, right?
Yes.
And then you have a call between Katie and Sigfredo Garcia at 6:42 in the morning for 36 minutes.
That's correct.
And then you have a call at 7:18 in the morning between Katie and Sigfredo, right?
Yes.
And then you have a call between Katie and Sigfredo at 8:36 in the morning, right?
No.
I'll
That's
move on.
actually,
I'll move on from that one.
it's a text message.
Witness isn't permitted to explain. Go ahead,
Fair
sir.
enough.
That is a text message from her records that's reported in Central Time. So
Fair enough. Text message, not a call.
at 9:36. Yes.
Okay. Then you have a call from Harvey to Donna at 8:52 in the morning.
That's correct.
Then you have a call from Donna to Harvey at 9:10 in the morning.
Yes.
Then you have a call from Charlie to Donna at 9:25 in the morning.
Yes.
Then you have Katie calls Sigfredo 3 times, 9:32 to 9:34 a.m.
Yes.
Then Charlie calls Katie, 9:34 a.m.
Yes.
Then Charlie calls Donna, 9:35 a.m.
Correct.
Then Katie texts Sigfredo, 9:36 a.m.
Correct.
Then Katie calls Charlie twice.
I don't show both of those calls, but there's at least one. Yes.
Please move on.
Then Charlie calls Katie twice.
I show one at 9:40, a return call at 9:43. Yes, there is the outgoing at 9:44. Yes.
Oops. Then Charlie texts Katie at 10:19.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Katie texts Charlie at 10:42.
I believe that's correct.
Harvey calls Donna at 11:04.
That's correct.
Donna texts Harvey 3 times between 12:29 and 1:23.
That's correct.
Donna calls Harvey at 1:27.
Correct.
Sigfredo calls Katie at 1:45.
I do not show that call.
I'll move on. Harvey calls Donna at 3:20.
At 1:53?
Yes.
Yes, at
I'm
1:53.
sorry. At 1:53, I apologize. Wendy texts Charlie at 2:33.
Yes.
And this goes on and on, right? You've seen this exhibit?
Yes.
Sigfredo calls Katie twice at 11:51 and 12:29 in the morning. It's the last activity of the day.
I do not show those on. You still on the second?
It bleeds over to the next day. That's okay. We'll move on. And if we go to May 7th, another random day, you had a chance to look through it. Similar phone activity, right?
There is, yes.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Take your time.
If we had the records in January, February, or March, you don't know if those patterns would be any different, right?
I do not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
When defense first began asking you questions, they talked about duplication. In the presentation that you showed the jury yesterday, have all of the duplicates been taken out of that presentation?
Yes. For all the call summaries, went and looked at each call and looked at the recipient's records to see if there was indications of voicemail, routing, and did my best effort to remove anything that was not an individual completed actual communication.
Okay, just want to make sure we're not seeing twice of every single event in your presentation.
The only place there would be duplicates would be like in frequency reports or when things were tallied, because those are across, thousands of records. So in those, the duplicates may be there, but in frequencies, we're kind of looking at relevance, and those duplicates duplicate themselves across all the callers. But in any of the summaries or any of the individual call patterns, we are looking at just individual events.
And when you say summaries and call patterns, you mean those flurries where we show the data from the records followed by kind of like the talking heads with the arrows?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, the July 2nd message where we made a mistake and there was the Catherine McVanwell was the one that was calling Sigfredo an effing pussy. Okay.
Yes.
That was her saying that, not Charlie Adelson.
Correct.
Okay. Were you trying to put some of these messages into the presentation this weekend while working some 12-hour shifts?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So, but in that message, is Catherine McVanwell letting Charlie Adelson know that Garcia is this scary, violent man?
It would not seem that.
She's calling him a P-word.
Yes, she is.
Okay. Or telling Charlie Adelson that Sigfredo Garcia is one.
Correct.
Okay. And she's also saying that his actions, Garcia's actions, are childish.
Correct.
I just want to make it clear, for the car rental in June when Sigfredo Garcia rented that silver Nissan sedan, we have no indications that Charlie Adelson was physically there at the rental location or anything like that, right?
We do not.
Okay. What your testimony was that Catherine McVanwell was on the phone with Charlie Adelson while she was consistent with being at Comfort Rental, and then they had that 25-minute call on her way home from Comfort Rental.
That's correct.
Okay. Just in general, when a person calls a landline, is that a suspicious thing?
It is not.
Okay. Is the reason that this Charlie Adelson's calls to his parents' landline, did that stand out to investigators because Charlie Adelson was the person on the wiretaps talking about calling people back to a landline or on a landline?
That's correct.
The July 6th text message between Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel, you said it's normal for co-parents to text about children and visitation schedules. You would expect that, right?
I would, yes.
Is the reason that that message in particular stood out to investigators, is that because of the date range Wendy Adelson referenced in that text message?
That's correct.
And the date range that she referenced, was that the week of Dan Markel's murder, the 14th through the 18th?
It was, yes.
And during that date range, the 15th you said was when the Prius was rented?
Correct.
The 16th you said was the travel to Tallahassee?
Yes.
You said the 17th was the surveillance of Dan Markel?
Yes.
And the 18th was the murder?
Correct.
Defense asked you, this Prius, it was green, right? It wasn't silver. Was the actual color of the Toyota Prius silver pine mica?
I believe that's correct. I referenced it as a metallic mint green.
Okay. And this was a four-door sedan?
Yes.
We saw, both in your presentation with the state and when defense had an opportunity to ask you questions, Wendy's cell site locations when she's on the phone on the day of the murder from her home down to ABC Liquors. those circles that were on the screen, those are the cell site locations that she's communicating with, right? Not her locations.
Absolutely. I hope that's clear. Those are the locations of the cell towers that her handset is wirelessly communicating with.
And that cell site that she's communicating with at 12:35 when she's on her way to the liquor store, that cell site services the area of Trescott Drive.
It could, yes.
Okay. And so does when she's down on her way a little south of there to the liquor store. That cell site services that area.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason that her cell site locations, investigators looked at those, was based on Officer Brandon reporting seeing a vehicle much like hers come up to the crime scene around that hour of day on the day of the murder.
Correct.
Based on the data, could her cell site location be consistent with her going up to the roadblock as Officer Brandon described?
It could, yes.
Defense asked you about, there was also a message in all of the defendant's iCloud where, and he showed you the message, his mother, Donna Adelson, wanted him to send her info, as in like the name or number of a caterer.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in that message that the defense showed you, she said the word caterer, right? Not birthday gift or birthday present.
Correct.
And did that text message say to erase it after he reads it?
It did, yes.
I'm sorry, the caterer message that the defense showed you just now?
I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the caterer message that the defense showed you today.
And you're asking if that's the one that had the delete?
Right.
It did not.
Okay. So she says, can you send me the info for a caterer? And then it didn't say delete this after reading or anything like that.
That's correct.
And it didn't say anything about a birthday gift or a birthday present in that message?
In that message, no.
Okay. In the messages that we showed the jury yesterday from March 4th, she says delete this after reading when she says she wants to make a private call to him when she gets to Gainesville when she's in the bathroom. That's the one that says delete after reading?
That's correct.
Okay. And in the follow-up message a few minutes later, she says it's about Dad's birthday gift?
Yes.
And then in June, 3 months later, after the June trip to Tallahassee by the shooters, he says he's still working on the birthday gift for Dad. And she says, I know you'll come through for me.
That's correct.
Okay. And did they talk about a birthday gift in that exchange or a birthday present? Or do they talk about a caterer?
Present.
On July 18th, the day of Dan Markel's murder, does Charlie Adelson's statement that he's not feeling well, that text comes after a call with Donna Adelson, but does it come before Catherine McBanois comes to his house that night?
It does, yes.
That same night on July 18th, in the message from Donna Adelson to Charlie Adelson, does she say she's outside his house?
It says outside your house, yes.
Okay. Does it say I'm on the turnpike near your house?
It does not.
When she says she's outside his house, I mean, I guess we don't know how long she stayed, whether she...
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Foundation.
Okay, Ms. Dugan, if you can clean up the foundation on this issue.
From the messages alone, do we know how long she stayed there?
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation.
Overruled. She's going to lay the foundation.
We do not.
Okay. From the messages alone, do we know if she left something in his house for him?
We do not.
All we know is she says she's outside his house, and he says 10 minutes.
Correct.
So in the presentation yesterday, we showed the communication between the parties, meaning the heads and the arrows, on days that we know are significant days in this investigation, right? Days.
Correct.
Okay. defense showed you some communication, they say, on random days, May 2nd and May 7th, I believe it was. I want to look at, just briefly, the divorce file in this case. All right. Now, this document, does this appear to have been filed toward the end of April 24th, 2014?
Yes.
Okay. And this says former husband, would that be Dan Markel?
Yes.
Former husband's second request to produce to former wife?
Yes.
Okay. And Dan Markel is requesting Wendy Adelson to produce for inspection and copy the following documents. And then if you go over to page 4, here are his requests. And he wants her employment contract, her pay stubs, showing all her income earned, her checking account statements, her income tax returns, the TIAA craft retirement account information, any information about removing funds from Schwab accounts, a detailed list of all of the items, marital items she may have taken from the home. That was his request in April of 2014, April 24th.
Yes.
Okay. And then on May 2nd of 2014, that would have been the first day of messages that the defense showed today, right?
Yes.
Or not messages, communication back and forth.
Yes.
Okay. On May 2nd, 2014, on this day, Dan Markel is moving to compel Wendy Adelson. So he's asking the court to basically force or order Wendy Adelson to respond to that motion, to the second request to produce. That motion that was filed on April 24th.
Correct.
Okay. Also on May 2nd, 2014, does it appear that Wendy Adelson was informed that a hearing was set on Dan Markel's motion to compel?
Yes.
Okay, and the hearing was set on the 2nd, and the hearing was supposed to be, though, on, it appears to be May 6th?
Correct.
Okay. On May 5th, Dan Markel files a memorandum of authorities to enforce the marital settlement agreement and motions for sanctions. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to try to get through those. Looks like a pretty lengthy motion. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All right, so on May 7th, after that motion is filed by Dan Markel, on May 7th, 2014, does Wendy Adelson's attorney then motion the court to be able to withdraw as her counsel?
Yes.
Okay, so on May 7th, that was the second day of communication that the defense showed today.
Correct.
Her attorney is trying to now withdraw from her case.
Correct.
So on both May 2nd and May 7th, there were even though there wasn't a trip to Tallahassee at that time by the shooters, there were significant events going on in the divorce in this case. Doesn't it seem so?
It does, yes.
All right. And those days, May 2nd and May 7th, they were days before these June and July trips to Tallahassee where the shooters drove up to kill Dan Markel.
Correct.
So, I mean, could these have been days where there was some discussion about the plan to kill Dan Markel?
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation. And speculation.
Sustained as a speculation and no foundation of the
Okay, I'll move on. I want to show you what I'm going to mark as states 129 A and B.
You have to look at the context. Maybe the sidebar.
Briefly.
Seated. Ms. Dugan, you may continue with the examination of Sergeant Corbitt.
Thank you, Judge. No further questions.
You have something to say, Mr. Rauschbaugh.
Just a brief recross, Your Honor.
I usually do not permit recross, as it's literally going to be one question.
I was hoping for 3 questions.
Let's get it on down to one.
All right.
You may recross as to your one most important question that you need to.
May I have one moment with Ms. Myers to figure out which one I want to use?
Go ahead. One equals one. Keep that in mind, please. Go ahead.
1231. Ms. Adelson's phone hits this cell tower, right?
That's correct.
We can agree that that's pretty far from Trescott, right?
It is, yes.
No further questions.
On the mark. Sergeant, you may step down.
Thanks, sir.
Please call your next witness.